everybody! Welcome back to the Goosebumps Crew Podcast. I am your host, Isaiah Vargas, also known as the Goosebumps channel on YouTube, Twitter, and Instagram. And once again, I am joined by my Goosebumps cohorts, Bjorn Pandelik, Goosebumps Aussie fan, Nick Shaw, Shawin, and Micah, also known as the Ultimate Goosebumps Man. Welcome to another episode. We're going to talk some more Goosebumps today. Are you guys excited? Are you guys excited to talk about some Goosebumps?
Always.
Yeah!
Yeah!
Awesome.
Let's do it!
Alrighty, so today on the Goosebumps Crew Podcast, we're going to talk about the Goosebumps movies, Goosebumps 2015 and Goosebumps 2 2018 release. We're also going to talk about some of our favorite sequel books and what books we would have liked to have had sequels to. But first, let's talk about those movies. Now, I think the best part to start with this topic is, what did you guys think when you first heard that a Goosebumps movie was actually going to be coming out?
Oh my slappy. God, I remember it. It was like late 2013, I think, was when I first heard the rumblings of it. And then in 2014, it was like Rob Letterman's directing, Jack Black's going to be in it. Yeah, everything just sort of came together. And I remember, like, I just randomly searched it on IMDb one day, and like there was already a full list of cast members, and I'm like, wait, what? Had like the haunted mask, the creeps, like, and I'm thinking they've basically spoiled like what monsters are going to be in this movie. But yeah, I mean, as a Goosebumps fan, like, we've been wanting this forever. Like, I mean, there's been so many attempts to do a Goosebumps movie, like back in the 90s. I mean, of course, the one I would have loved to have seen back in 1998, I think it was the Tim Burton version. That would have been really awesome and perfect for him to do a Goosebumps movie, but obviously it never really materialized. They couldn't really think of a story, I think, was kind of what happened there. But the fact that we even got a Goosebumps movie is just amazing. You know, whether it was amazing or not great, like, I was just riding that whole hype train the whole way through. So yeah, it was exciting.
Funny that you mentioned that, because I remember that they also were talking about how George Romero was going to originally do a Welcome to Deadhouse adaptation. So that was going to be a Goosebumps movie, a whole Welcome to Deadhouse. George Romero, for those of you who somehow don't know who he is, he directed Night of the Living Dead. He's like the guy who made the zombie movies. Night of the Living Dead, Dawn of the Dead. Like, him doing Welcome to Deadhouse, I think would have been amazing, and it sucks that we didn't get that. But,
it wasn't like a full-on R-rated version of it, like with all the gore and stuff as well. Like,
that would have been funny. I would have liked that.
Hey, we're getting a new Goosebumps movie. Oh, it's rated R.
It's rated R.
See, that's the adult Goosebumps that we should have got, rather than the Goosebumps series we did get.
Yeah, like, I agree. You know, like, all I remember was just the excitement. I mean, I had pure excitement on my face when I saw that big cardboard cutout at the cinema. Like, I was there the day they were setting it up, and I remember I went to see the movie Pan. That I can't even remember who was in it now. It was called Pan.
Yeah, it was called Pan.
And I remember the dude was literally setting up the cardboard cutout, and I was like, "Oh my god, when you're done with that, can I have it?" And he was just like, "Yeah, it doesn't come out for like another 3 months." But I was like, "I don't care, dude. Like, where do I put my name down?" Like,
yeah, like, you let me know. I'll be there. I'll be there.
Yes, I will be there. I have a picture.
I don't care where. I'll be there.
Oh yeah, I'll send the picture to you. You can even put it up on screen. Like, literally, I took a photo with that cardboard standing when he finished setting it up, and I was just like, "Oh my god!"
No, I remember that too. I wish I got more pictures with a cardboard cut. I don't even think I have the picture anymore. I'm really sad about it. But I remember hearing about the movie. So obviously, yeah, there was talk about it, like before 2014, I think. But it was not until 2014, the summer when Comic-Con was going on, that I saw the picture, and I think it was like the LA Times or something. It was some newspaper that put it on Facebook, and it was their front page. It said Goosebumps movie with Jack Black, and they had pictures from the movie going on, and it was just like, that was my first look, and it was incredible. And it was, I can't even put into words like how excited I was. You had Jack Black there as R.L. Stine. You had all the monsters there. And then later, the video of the panel came out. That's a really good picture. I like Slappy in his pajamas. But then you had the panel where they had Jack Black and they had Rod Letterman, and they were talking about the movie. I think they were talking about Pixels too, because that was coming out around the same time also. But they brought Slappy on, and they were having a whole bit where like it was like Jack Black was with Slappy, and then Avery Jones, who was operating Slappy, suddenly took over, and he was like, "I'm gonna bring out all the monsters," and then all the monsters came out on stage, and it was just like incredible. It was like, whoa, this is amazing. It was a really, I mean, leading up to release, that movie got a lot of attention. The first one, that is. It was everywhere. Everybody was talking about it. Everybody was talking about Goosebumps and Jack Black and all that. I mean, it was, I don't know. I remember being so excited for it when it finally came out. I think I saw it like it was a month before my 14th birthday, and we got to go see it on opening night, and that was great moment. Great moment.
Yeah, definitely. I think the two best times to be a Goosebumps fan was like in the 90s during the prime time, and just that lead up to that first film. Like, to me, I think those were kind of like the two peak times to be a Goosebumps fan, collector, because at least the first movie did a lot of merchandise other than like the new series or the sequel. But, you know, they actually did, like some promoting and marketing, and they actually hyped it up, But, yeah, I mean, it was a great time to be alive. I mean, we got to all experience it. So, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. But then the movie came out, and what are your guys' thoughts, general thoughts, that is, on the first one? Because I personally think that it's fine. I think it, in retrospect, is a very flawed but fun movie. And there's a couple reasons why. Is because, number one, it's just a fun, spooky movie. I mean, anybody can put it on and have fun. It's a nice Halloween movie. As a Goosebumps fan, there's obviously a lot of Easter eggs and references. Me personally, the problems are mostly down to the writing. I don't think the story is very interesting. I think the first third is kind of slow. I think it kind of drags a little bit. And I know for a horror movie, in this case, it's not really a horror movie, but for a movie you gotta build stuff up. I think it just takes a little too long building things up, because you go into the Goosebumps movie, you want to see the action, you want to see the monsters. Me personally, that's what I want to see. Let's just skip the fluff. So, but I think overall the movie is very fun. I like revisiting every once in a while. I think Jack Black is definitely the best part of the movie. I think Slappy is probably the second best thing about it. There's a lot of charisma coming from him, and I think it is a very fun movie overall.
Yeah, the movie itself was fine. I think you're right. In the beginning, they gave you a lot of hype for it. They really wanted people to see this film and kind of maybe have the second coming of Goosebumps, which for a while, it did kind of feel like that, because you did see merchandise in stores again. You saw commercials. So it was pretty cool. And obviously, like, to get a major motion picture for the first time was really awesome. I mean, for any Goosebumps fan, it would have just been amazing. But I think, honestly, if this would have been a movie in the 90s with Tim Burton, it would have been vastly better. This is just content that is right up Tim Burton's alley. I mean, it would have been incredible to see what he did with this franchise. But we ended up getting this one, and this one's not terrible. But, like, why did they have to do, like, a CG werewolf? Abominable Snowman, I totally get, but I don't understand why they had to do a CG werewolf. And then you get these really, I don't know if they were intentionally written this way or if it was just like the actress, but the ant, like the weird ant, who, like, I just did not vibe with that character. I was just like, oh my God, I was like, please stop.
On the fact that they try to make her, like, her and R.L. Stine, like, a couple in the movie, it's just like, oh God, please stop.
Yeah,
it's not funny. And it's funny that you brought up that CG werewolf, because there's one scene in the movie, I'll never forget it, one scene in the movie, and I think you guys know what I'm talking about, in the grocery store, where it looks so fake, it looks like a PS2 cutscene.
Yeah, and that's what I'm talking about. Like,
Remember
the
that
night-
bit? And
He's-
everyone in the theater freaked out about that. I remember, like, the werewolf came out, and it was like, because they were looking through like the monitor, like in the store, like the CTV cameras or whatever, and then you see the werewolf come in, and oh my god.
Well, no,
Like-
not that part. It's there's the scene in the movie where Champ, who's Ryan Lee's character, he fizzes the soda, and then the werewolf hears and he walks over. When he cut to that and he comes out in the middle, it's so, I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's the shadow, I don't know if it's the rendering or something, but it looks so bad. It looks awful. And I mean, there's a lot of stuff in the movie where it's like the CG is, I mean, look, they did a lot of effects for this movie, and I'm actually glad that for the most part, like Slappy, for example, I'm glad that they kept him practical. Like, there's no, this is something that the sequel did kind of wrong, is that Slappy in every scene is practical. He is an actual ventriloquist dummy. And there's a lot of other monsters that are mostly in the third act that are like practical, like costumes and makeup effects, and that's good. Unfortunately, a lot of the ones that are front and center are completely CG. The Abominable Snowman, the Werewolf, the Praying Mantis, they're all CG, and it is very hit and miss, depending on what scene you're talking about. Can we talk about some of the choices for monsters too? Because so, okay, Slappy makes total sense. The fact that he is the front and center, he is the big bad guy of the movie, that it makes sense. But there's a lot of things. Okay, so I mean, so we go back to like the hype. You had all these monsters that are in all the promotion, all the advertising, the aforementioned Comic-Con where you had all these characters, these creatures come out. A lot of them are squeezed in the last third in the background. We get the Abominable Snowman, which, why is the Abominable Snowman such a major character in this movie?
Because it can be made in CG.
yeah, that is true. The Werewolf of Fever Swamp, I get the Werewolf of Fever Swamp, but it's just a werewolf. It's just a werewolf. That's the thing. It's like, just like the what's another one? Like the Graveyard Ghouls. Yeah, you call them the Graveyard Ghouls, but they're just zombies.
Yeah.
Like, that's the thing. It's very surface level in a lot of areas, and it's fitting that Rob Letterman did this and the new series, because that's also another Goosebumps adaptation that's very surface level.
Oh yeah, and it's funny how you mentioned about the zombies, because like a lot of the extras that played the zombies also worked on The Walking Dead. And I remember seeing like an interview way back when they were doing press for this, and they actually interviewed some of the zombies, and they even said like, oh yeah, when we're finished here, we have to head over to the Walking Dead set. Like, so we don't finish, we're doing Goosebumps, and then we got to go head over there later. And
despite the fact that the Graveyard Ghouls are just generic zombies, can we all agree that the scene with the Graveyard Ghouls is probably the scariest scene in the movie?
It is a very nice, I mean, it's a nice graveyard set. I like the graveyard. I mean, like, just, I don't know, having the werewolf under the bright lights of a grocery store is not as scary as being in a graveyard with zombies coming out of the graves.
Yeah.
Like, that's the thing. It's just like, and I don't know, I don't find, again, why is the Abominable Snowman such a big character in this movie? Because he's not scary. He's not scary. Like,
it was probably because like one of the writers or something loved that book as a kid, and they just wanted to have it front and center.
Maybe it's I don't know. It was so weird.
Because they could be getting fully CG, and it's cheaper than having to show a fully practical creature front and center.
I love the
Oh, do you
line in the
guys
movie. It's
remember?
like the abominable snowman of Pasadena is like, my grandma lives in Pasadena. I stopped visiting her after I read this book.
That's like
That's
really any
but
of the
you know what?
books
That's
even
funny
takes
though,
place in Pasadena.
because look, all four of us are Goosebumps super fans. But let's be incredibly honest. Are we at all scared by Goosebumps books?
Not usually.
No.
Depends on the book, but not usually.
That's the kind of thing I liked about the movie, because it seemed like were doing like a tongue-in-cheek thing where it was like, because I think they said when they first discovered the books, they was like, what is he doing with a bunch of kids books? And then Champ is like, dude, these are not kids books. Kids books put you to sleep. These keep you awake. And I'm like,
Well, I mean,
Oh,
I guess if you think about it from the mindset of a kid, then maybe. But like when you think about it, the mindset of an adult, it's like, no.
I don't know.
know.
Even as a kid, I didn't really.
I was gonna
I
say,
found
even
the
as
covers more scary than the
Mhm.
actual books.
Yeah.
I wasn't scared about any of that. I mean, I grew up watching things like Child's Play and It with Tim Curry and all these other things. So Goosebumps was like, that really was kid stuff to me to read. I really enjoyed it, and that's what got me into those other things. But like, it was like, no, those aren't scary when you compare it to other things. And so for me personally, anyway, again, it's all based on an individual. What scares somebody else won't scare me probably. But that's kind of like quoting the Grinch, since it's Christmas time. If you all watch the Jim Carrey Grinch movie,
I
it
love
really
that.
feels
I
like
do.
kids these days so desensitized by movies, television.
Television.
Oh,
What do you
don't
want?
even get me started. Don't even get me started on kids today with that. But can we all agree? How cool was it they actually did a VR experience for the Goosebumps movie?
Yes,
let's not
they
forget.
did a VR for the praying mantis chase, and that was pretty fun. I like that. That was an interesting scene too, because going back to the whole monster topic, is that I actually like the praying mantis,
Mm-hmm.
but that wasn't really a big part of the book. That's the thing. It's kind of like they looked at the book and was just like, oh, there's a praying mantis, put it in.
I think that's the hard
Put
thing,
it
like,
in.
Put it
Put
in.
it in there.
though, is that there's just so
Put
many
it in.
monsters in that book that I feel like they had to kind of just decide one. And the
But
Mantis
it's also
like the
weird
main
because
focus
it's
of
like
cover and stuff. So
it feels surface level, but then at the same time you have these really like weird additions. Like they have the Annihilator 3000s from the Give Yourself Goosebumps book, toy terror batteries included. They have Cronby the Troll from another Give Yourself Goosebumps. So you have like these like really surface level things, but then you have like these like only a Goosebumps super fan would have really known what these
or
characters
another
were.
big one was the plants, like the giant Venus flytraps, or like the giant plants in general. There's always a debate of what it is. It's either Lost in Stink Eye Swamp, Stay Out of the Basement, or your plant food.
People when it
Apparently,
came
according
out
to
thought it was
Goosebumps
Stay Out of the
Wiki and, like
Basement.
behind the scenes and stuff, it's your plant food. That's what
It's
they're
your
from.
plant food, but people were actually I met a lot of people that thought it was Stay Out of the Basement.
Mhm. I thought that
It
too
makes
at
sense
first.
because it's not the plants themselves, it's the dad, the
Yeah.
clone dad. So that makes sense. But no, it's just like there was so weird. Like I like it, but like I don't know, it was just weird how you'd have something that was just like, there's this in a story somewhere, but then you had like these really detailed ones that you probably wouldn't know unless you really read the books.
Mhm.
And
Like,
But that's
wait,
another thing.
I feel like wait, what?
You
Go ahead.
had also like the haunted mask in the background of the third act, and that's like one of the best. Nick, Nick is really upset about that
no.
because you had the haunted mask, you had the jack-o'-lanterns, you had the executioner,
Scarecrows.
you had the
Creeps.
the creeps, the body squeezers, like you had all these cool monsters, and they're like not really in the movie that much, and that kind of stinks. It's just like, I don't know. I'm glad they're there. I wish there was more of them.
Now,
Man,
I don't know what kind of part they would actually play if they did get that front runner position, but I feel like they could have, contributed more to not only just the story itself, but the fandom, because again, not many want to see the Abominable Snowman. I mean,
Yeah.
that's I'd rather have the Haunted Mansion, clearly. And I think a majority would agree because it's more of an iconic book. It's more of an iconic character.
Yeah. Also, I think, like, actually, I was talking to Bjorn once. I think it was Bjorn who mentioned this, but, like, a cool way they could have incorporated the haunted mask into the movie is, like, maybe it's just the mask that comes out of the book, and near the finale, it attaches itself to Stein. And, like,
Yeah, I would like that.
To Stein or
Like,
even
kids,
to,
like,
what was Odeya Rush's character?
Hannah.
Yeah.
You know, she was a Goosebumps character.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
yeah. I don't know if people know this. If you don't know, viewers, if you don't know this, Hannah's actually supposed to be the character from The Ghost Next Door. It's not just some random ghost. It's actually the main character from The Ghost Next Door. That is a cool reference. I like that.
Yeah, there's a few things, look, I would have changed. Like, for instance, the executioner should have been used as the big strong man that, like, pushes them around. Like, he should have grabbed Stein and he's like, come with me. Like, you know, like, because he was so big and strong.
Mm-hmm.
I in my head, I was like, I imagine there's going to be a scene where, like, they get captured by the monsters and, like, he's kind of like the one that, like, lifts up the kids and, like, walks off with them. Like, there's so much they could have done with him. And another thing I would have changed was I would have tried so hard to get some of those actors from the original show to cameo in this. Like, I would have tried. You know, that would have been so cool. Like, even just little things. Like, the principal could have been, like, I don't know, Billy from Welcome to Camp Nightmare, Kai Eric Erickson. It could have been him that played the principal. Like, you could have had just a couple actors. Or, like, you could have had, you know, like, from the main episodes, of course. Like, the more nostalgic, iconic ones.
But let's be honest, one of the best scenes in the movie is R.L. Stein's cameo at the end.
Mm-hmm.
I remember seeing that in the theater. I thought that was a really, really funny scene because it's Jack Black is R.L. Stein, and then R.L. Stein is Mr. Black. Like, that's funny. But also, did you guys notice that they say he's the drama teacher? And I wonder if that is a joke because R.L. Stein is a notoriously bad actor.
Also, another reason I think that might be a joke is because, like, in the scene where Stein goes to, like, start typing, it's The Shining as the play.
Yeah, they did a lot of in both movies. They did a lot of jokes about R.L. Stein being similar to Stephen King, which it's true. Like, I like.
How amazing that
I
would
just
have been
love
if
the
R.L.
scene
Stein
in
actually played himself in the movie.
This is just a testament to how great I think Jack Black does in the movie, because in the scene where they're in the car and Zach brings up that he's like, stop trying to be Stephen King, and he just slams the brake and he's like, let me tell you something about Stephen King. He's like, Stephen King wishes he could write like me. Like, that is a and then Zach
I sold way more books than him, but nobody ever talks about that.
He's just like,
way more books.
I think the funniest thing about that is, like, it's not, he doesn't say Stephen King, he calls him Steve King.
Yeah, Steve King. Like, he's like trying to like bring him down a notch. Like, he's not even there.
Steve King.
Yeah.
I just love that. Steve King wishes he could write like me.
Oh my god.
I even like
scene. The theater, everyone in the theater laughed during that scene. I must admit, the moments in the movie where people just lost like their shit was that scene, number one. Like, that whole scene, like, and the scene in the grocery store where the drool was dripping down onto Jack Black's face, and he's like, there was a guy in the front row, and I swear to God, when that scene was happening, all you heard was ha 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 ha, like, so loud. And everyone else was kind of but this guy just, for whatever reason.
No, I'm just like,
like,
I hate saliva so much. So, like, that scene, I'm just like, oh god.
CGI saliva. It was CGI.
Oh, more CGI.
Yeah.
And, like, the thing is, like, as well, like, the shame about it is, like, all the practical monsters, they look so good in the movie. Like, the creeps are phenomenal. The creeps are probably my favorite designs in the movie.
Murder the Clown looks really good. It's not really an iconic monster, but it's a great design.
And he's not even the villain of the book, like.
Well, and that's the great thing. That's why I wish the haunted mask was in the movie, because it's an actual like makeup effect, and it's like a face. It's not a mask. It's like how it is in the book. It becomes your face. And yeah, I understand that. Number one, you can't incorporate everything into the plot. You do have to, push some to the side. I understand that. I also understand, and this maybe is the reason why, but they're making a movie for general audiences, and we know all these monsters, but like maybe a bunch of other people don't. So maybe that's why they kind of maybe that's why they tried to keep it kind of surface level, kind of safe in terms of like the ones they really focused on, and then the ones in the backgrounds are just for like the fans. I don't know. That's what I think.
It makes sense,
I mean,
but
maybe, but at the same time, when you think about it, I mean, if I went to just a general person, they're gonna know who Slappy is, most likely, if they've heard of Goosebumps or even watched the old '90s show.
Mm-hmm.
And 100% will know him, and as well as the Haunted Mask, because the Haunted Mask was the first episode to air. It was also so iconic to a lot of people. I mean, to a lot of mask makers today, I mean, that episode inspired a lot of people into mask making. Like, it was crazy how many. Even some prop makers today, which hopefully in a future episode, as we do our artist series, I got a few people lined up, including prop makers who can talk about that. But like, I feel the Haunted Mask should have been a bit more upfront. People know who that character is. And like you said, honestly, like, their makeup and design for it, was it as good as the 90s one? Of course not, in my opinion, but that's here nor there. It's hard to beat that kind of design, but they did better in terms of actually referencing how it looked in the book.
Yeah.
Because
it seemed like in the movie it looked more like it was like, it kind of looked like a more exaggerated version of the 90s show design.
To an extent, yeah. I mean, but this one, it was just like, it was very much more close to the face. It did look like it was an actual face. Like,
it had like veins on it and stuff.
Yeah.
Like, it was like it was very organic looking, and it's like, I love that. This is why I kind of wish it wasn't just in the background. We need to talk about the lawn gnomes.
Something like that. That's what bothers me too. Like, these CGI characters are so easy to make, and it, like we mentioned, it's very bad in parts. But all those monsters that were made up, actually, who were there, prosthetics and everything like that, they looked amazing. Like, why would you not want to put more shine and emphasis on those rather than your CGI ones?
We need to talk about the lawn gnomes, because I just remember that they're in the movie. That scene was in all the advertising. Like, all the advertising was this scene where they go against the lawn gnomes because they're cute. Look at it, they're cute. They're so small.
One of the
is that actual
props from the movie?
I was about to say, is that actually a prop? That's cool.
That's a prop. Do you want to see the certificate, the little prize winning thing?
Sure.
I'll go get it. I'll get the whole thing.
But no, I don't know. I remember that being in all the advertising, and it's like, again, it's such a weird pick for like one of the main focuses, because not only are they there, I mean, they're kind of like the little minions of the movie. That's kind of how I see them. They're like the minions of Goosebumps.
I don't know. I kind of like that scene. Honestly, I like that scene. There was a lot of good.
I like it too. It's just
Noah was on Stein's face and Champ just like whacks him in the face with a frying pan.
That's where the Gremlins sort of flavor in this movie comes out. Because I really like how dark that scene is. Because they're like Champ's like shoving one into the garbage disposal, and then they throw them in the oven, and they're just like
and there's also a nice little reference to Gulliver's Travels in there, because that was another movie Jack Black was in. And have that kind of thing where you tie him down and stuff.
And those were probably, even though those were CG too, they probably were the best looking CG in the movie. Like, I thought like they were probably the best looking CG characters in the movie.
And, like, I love like the way they did it too. Like when they move, their like joints like crack and break and stuff like that. Like, I think that was a really cool thing they did with that idea.
Yeah. Also, there was the Blob in the movie. The Blob that ate everyone, and I remember there was a few people who were really upset that it wasn't monster blood, because that would have had probably just as much effect. But at the same time, again, it's not as iconic, I don't think, at least not to people who haven't been longtime fans. So I think putting it in would kind of confuse people. It's just easier to say, here's the Blob, because then you get it. You know what it does. But
I think the CG on the Blob looked pretty good as well.
I thought that looked good too. The Blob and the gnomes were like the better looking CG things.
And like,
I think,
it
and also I
bad.
think the CG
I
of like
thought kind of weird was when it took Jack Black. Like that moment where it kind of absorbed him looked really bad. Like that's
I
really
like that it turned into a mouth though. Like when he was about to like actually like swallow him, it looked like a big mouth. I like that.
And also, I love this though. I love the way they had the monsters like emerging from the books, like how like the ink and stuff just like rises off and like swirls together. Like that was super cool.
Well, the thing is that I like this idea. Like I love the idea of like this sort of Jumanji / Gremlins thing, with Goosebumps. Like where you open the book and like the ink swirls and it makes the monsters. That's a clever idea, and especially again when they like get sucked back into the books, like that's equally as cool. That's why I personally think the climax is one of my favorite parts of the movie, is just because I like how all of them get sucked back in. I like the praying mantis because it's so big that its like limbs are turning to ink and it's just like
Or like the scene where his head just like melts. Like that was pretty cool.
Well, yeah, because like his head is just like stuck out of the book and he's just like and then it just like like this movie had like some dark moments in it. Like that's why I have fun with this movie. Slappy is probably I know I said Jack Black was my favorite part, but Slappy is like my close second because we mentioned this in an earlier episode because we ranked the Slappy adaptations. And even though I said that this Slappy from the first movie is probably my least favorite, I still really like it. I like how he's going around town just like doing stuff. I love that he just like is throwing books out the car. Like he's driving around town in the car and he's throwing books out. He's just like, I'm driving myself crazy.
Yeah, Slappy was good. Like my only problem with Slappy is his design. Like he's much more book accurate, but he's just way too like watered down and kid friendly. Like he's not creepy in the slightest bit in the movie.
Photoshop those eyes on movie Slappy and see what he looks like.
That's the
these
thing.
Are like book guys.
I actually think that the TV show Slappy, and I think I mentioned this before too, but I actually think the TV show Slappy from the new show actually looks a lot better than the movie does.
Oh, I agree.
Because it just looks more, it just looks creepier. Like if you put both of those together, like the new Slappy, keep that thing far away from me. I don't want to run into that thing.
Oh man. All I can say is this. I wish that for Goosebumps 2, that they would have had, instead of the monsters coming out of the books, they come out of the original Tim Jacobus paintings.
That would have been neat. It would have made more sense.
Like at the Scholastic HQ, like in the basement, like they come down and they see all this like paint like dripping, and they're like, wait, what's all this? They kind of like in the original show how they'd always step in a puddle of paint, they'd always step in a puddle of goo, they step in a puddle like literally of like different colored paints and go, what's happened? And then all the Goosebumps paintings, they're still up there, but the monsters. And then
Bugs Bunny comes out because this is Space Jam.
Yeah.
Here
comes the slam now. Welcome to the Space Jam. Exactly. I don't know, when you said like basement, I just was thinking like this is just the plot of Space Jam 2.
Well, I don't know, because think about it. If you're going down to the basement where they keep like Tim's art and things like that, and it's dark and stuff, imagine Chicken coming out of the dark. You know what I mean?
That'd be scary. That'd be scary. It's like.
Help me! I'm in a bad book.
They could turn that into a creepy monster. I tell you, that could look so terrifying.
Help me! My book sucks.
Could you imagine a 20-foot tall chicken instead of the praying mantis? My God, that'd be
like how.
Well, I mentioned this before, but I think it would have been really cool. And we'll talk. You know what? I'll save this for when we talk about Goosebumps 2. But there were some things I would have liked the movies to go if they were going to do sequels. Before we move on, though, what did you guys think of the human characters? I know we talked about Jack Black already. What do you think about the kid characters? Because I don't gel with them, to be honest. I like Champ. I know I'm kind of in a minority, but I actually think Champ is my favorite of the kid characters because I just like his charisma. I think Ryan Lee does a really good job playing him. Dylan Minnette and Odeya Rush are just, I don't know, they're there. They don't really seem scared or really that emotive, to be honest.
I like Dylan's character, but the problem was with Zach that they tried to do this whole my dad's passed away thing and make you connect with him, but it was really just like a throwaway thing for his character because they did truly nothing with it. I mean, they kind of did, but not to the extent where you're going to feel something when that moment came. It really was like a.
Well, yeah, there's no payoff.
Really there for him to have Stein open up and connect to them.
Well, yeah,
Right.
but there's no payoff because they're just like,
Right.
because so he confronts him. He's like, Jack Black, your daughter's a fake. Your daughter's not real. And then they have that whole thing where Jack Black's like, yeah, but she's real to me. And then they're like, oh yeah, my dad died. So,
Yeah.
like, okay,
I
what does
thought-
that have to do with?
like,
What does that have to do with it?
Like, hey, can you write my dad into a story and bring him back?
No,
Yeah.
I can only write women.
Well, at the end of the day, the
I'm gonna
stars
write-
of the movies are the monsters, right?
Well, did you guys
Stars
ever
of
wonder,
Goosebumps
like,
are the monsters.
did you guys ever wonder how that works? Because it's like we establish in the movie that she doesn't age, and it's like, but then he brings her back at the end, like so she gets sucked into the book, but then he brings her back. He writes another book, and she's back, and it's like, well, is she gonna still stay 16 forever? Like, this is really weird.
That's kind of ambiguous. Like I don't know. He may have written her so that she can actually age or something like that. I don't know.
Well, yeah, that's
but...
the thing. It's like, do you have to like write certain things about it? Like, it's really odd.
Mhm. I do kind of like the typewriter.
Can you please write her to be over 21 now?
I think the typewriter in the movie is supposed to be like the typewriter from Blob that ate everyone. Like I'm not
Yeah.
sure, but definitely
That's the
seems
thing.
like
It was
that's
so
the
weird.
case.
They didn't explain that either. It's just like,
Mm.
oh, I have a magic typewriter. That's
They
it.
kind of threw that away too, because I think he vaguely mentioned like it's that specific typewriter with his specific
Yeah.
like storytelling. So
Yeah,
it's
Yeah.
like
And then like, because they're like, only I can do it, and then they're
it's only
like,
I can do it. It's a combo of the two. That's
yeah.
as far as they went with it.
Yeah, they were but they're just like, oh, you can write it now, and he's like, okay, I guess I can write books now. It's like,
Yeah.
so they're not consistent. But going back to Zach, it's like he's such a blank slate of a character because yeah, so his dad dies, but that doesn't have any bearing on the plot. What do you have left? They're like, because Hannah is like, oh, he keeps calling him scaredy cat. He's like, is he really scared? I don't think he's really that like scared the whole time.
Great. He wore that bedazzled New York.
He
hat.
looks like a jock. Like, I don't believe that this kid would be getting picked on. Like, I don't think Dylan
does.
Minnette's getting picked on in high school.
He does. Watch the deleted scenes. Like that bully character, the jock, who's literally called the jock in the script.
Yeah.
He bullies him. Like in
Well,
the
no,
deleted scene.
I don't think Dylan Minnette would be the kind of guy who'd be getting picked on in high school. That's
Nah.
that's the
He's the
thing.
cool kid.
Yeah,
cool
he's
kid.
the cool kid. That's why. It's just like it's so odd. But no.
You got to talk about that praying mantis eating the guy, or
Well, in a minute. I'm gonna finish my thought really quick. But I love how you put that. We gotta talk about that praying mantis eating that guy.
Yeah, I remember
But,
when you mentioned.
No, just to finish, just because Zach's whole motivation, his build up as a character, is very reminiscent of what a Goosebumps book does for a protagonist. Because I mean, to be honest, a lot of Goosebumps protagonists are blank slates.
Mhm.
Like they're all kind of the same kid. Maybe they get picked on. Maybe they're kind of like, or they're moving into a new town, or they got. I don't know. I mean, has there ever been a Goosebumps book with a missing father? I don't know. I don't think so.
So
But-
actually, like, if you see the Haunted Mask, I mean, like, you never see Carly Betts' dad, but he's meant.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
But they
yeah,
don't. They never say like.
Business trip or something.
Yeah, it's always like a business trip or something. I think Stein has a way of writing where, I think he said it himself, where he's like when he writes a book, he doesn't want to like really bring like hard realities in. He kind of wants it to remain a fantasy. So if it means a working class family where there's no trouble,
What
then
do you call
so
the
be it.
2023 series?
The
What do you
worst
call the
thing.
new TV series?
Yeah, that was like that was the first time I ever saw adultery in a Goosebumps story.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's weird.
First time you saw two dudes making out as well
That's
in a Goosebumps series. Like,
why it's
I don't
weird.
know.
It's like when we get outside the books, all of a sudden we're getting like things we are like, oh yeah, we've never seen something like that before. We've never seen a dead father or a gay couple or something like that.
Yeah.
But
Oh, man.
no, that is, well, getting back into the dark aspects of the movie, there's a scene where a kid gets sucked out by the
Yes!
praying mantis. And I always, and look, this is just the cynical, like, teen, young adult in me. I wish that kid died. I wish that kid just died. You don't see him again. You don't even see it happen. He just gets sucked out, and that's it. His character's gone. But no, he's in a body cast in the end, and I'm like, boo.
Yeah,
Like
That
cop out.
oh, man,
the guy was like teacher of the class. Stein was taking over. Like,
Yeah. Oh, man. Yeah.
Yeah.
He became the teacher. He did. Right at the end.
Yeah, right at the
Beginning-
end, he becomes the teacher. I just find it, I don't know. It's like I said.
the '90s show killed, but they didn't show it. So
Oh yeah, there was no blood or
that's the
anything.
Old story showed on Dahlia getting killed.
That
Yeah.
was cool.
Oh,
I like
yeah.
that.
That's-
That's probably that's the best part of that really awful episode.
I like Old Story, honestly. I rewatched it
don't.
recently.
I
I think it's a
don't.
fun one.
I think I don't
It's
like
like
that.
the weirdest one I think they ever did.
Oh, it's
Oh,
weird.
no doubt about that. There's no
And
doubt about that.
you don't think about it, but like as an adult, you sure do, because it's literally just it's aunt pimping out her nephews to her old biddy friends.
It's
Is it-
child trafficking. It's
Doesn't
literally
the story
child
say,
trafficking.
like,
It is
they
child
don't act-
trafficking.
Doesn't the story
Goosebumps.
implicate that they don't actually know if like she's their aunt, or if the parents even know that
Well,
she's
in
there?
the short story, it's confirmed that she wasn't their aunt. She's just this like witch who goes around families posing as an aunt.
Honestly, the fact that it is someone who's related to them is honestly creepier, because I'm like, those are your actual nephews.
Yeah.
Like, what the hell?
Yeah.
Anyway, back to the movie. I don't know. I mean, we kind of talked about everything we could talk about.
But one thing I do want to bring up quickly is the plot hole when they're writing the book. Why didn't they just write down all the monsters except
Hannah. Yes,
Like,
exactly.
Yeah.
It's such an easy little fix they could have done.
It's like, you know, you could have fixed this all. You
I guess the final conclusion
need to work on your writing skills.
What is your final review for the film? For me, 7.5 out of 10.
I'd say a 7. Like I said, I have a lot of fun with it. I just think that as a movie, let's put it this way. As a Goosebumps movie, it's fun. As a movie, it's okay. Because, I mean, it's not a great written movie. And there's a lot of things in it that don't make any sense. But it's fun. I like it. I really do. I watch it every Halloween.
Yeah, I would say I really like it too. I think it's like a 7.5 out of 10. Even though I don't know if you guys have ever read the second draft script, but I know Bjorn made a video on it a while back. But like, I read the second draft script, and I wish that was the movie. That would have been so much better because it was darker, it was scarier, there was more monsters recognized, like Cuddles and
Cuddles is in it.
Mhm.
Yes, and like the executioner has a bigger role too. Like it's just
like ringing the town
it's
bell.
more of it's more of a,
Yeah,
it's
like
more
they
of a
actually
Goosebumps
like
story.
read the words to bring Slappy to life. Like he's in a display case and they read magic words.
Oh,
Mm-hmm.
it's more of a Goosebumps movie. Like, and my favorite part from that second draft script is literally the scene where they have the cops like on the ground and Cuddles is like over the top of them, like holding them down while Slappy's like telling them like I'm in charge now. Like it's just way cooler. Like it's like you said, it's edgier, it's darker. And I love even like when Slappy's
with the movers,
introduced.
like the opening scene with the movers in that script is awesome as well.
Well, and that's interesting because that was adapted into the video game. The video game starts with it's the scene with the movers and they see Slappy in the back. with the cuckoo clock and all that stuff.
And I know that, like, there wasn't, and on the Blu-ray of the movie, they actually had like the alternate opening where it was the movers, but they discover Slappy in the back and stuff. Like,
yeah.
I wish they kept some of that, but hey.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. It's just there's so much about the movie I wish that could have been done. I try to see the movie as it is, but yeah, I mean, for a Goosebumps movie, you want more. You want more fan service, and I mean, there's already a lot of fan service, but you know what I mean.
Easter eggs, though. I wouldn't really say it's fan service. It's mostly Easter eggs.
Yeah,
that's their version of fan service. It's not our version of fan service, though.
Even the movie novel was a little different. The movie novel was slightly different to the movie.
Yeah.
Like, it was a little bit darker.
One part I love in the movie novel is when they're sucking all the monsters back in, and Slappy's like trying to, instead of like hitting Stein and holding on to him, he's like trying to crawl, and Stein just walks up and he just steps on his fingers, and he's like, now we're even, because he breaks his fingers.
Yeah.
Slappy breaks Stein's fingers in the movie, which I was actually kind of like, oh my god, like that's kind of violent. Yeah. But I love in the book because, in the movie, I love that scene too because he tears Slappy off him and then he kicks him in the face and then he hits a tree on the way to the book. But the book, the
and
novel,
does a good line. The Slappy's not happy. Neither is Stein.
Yeah, he just decks him in the face and then and on top of that, then he hits a tree and he's like, oh.
Yeah.
Like that was like, dang, that's violent for a Goosebumps.
See you in your dreams.
That's a great line. Like, what a way to like bring Slappy out of the movie. Like, that was he came in great and he came out great. Like,
he thought he was Freddy Krueger in the end, though. He thought he was Freddy Krueger. See you in your dreams. Yes, what?
See, mine's a little harsher than you guys. Like, I give it maybe like a 6.5. 6 even like is closer, so it's like a weak 0.5, but still a 0.5.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like, everything discussed, just because there's things I would like to have seen differently, storylines I would like to have changed in it, things like that, to make it more Goosebumps. And, you know, it's something that we touched on in the previous video. It was boss Slappy. It wasn't true Slappy.
Mm-hmm.
It was boss Slappy as he drove around in his car and, you know, was chauffeured everywhere and then told people what to do. You know,
he was like, why doesn't the werewolf just freaking eat him?
I didn't see magic happen. I didn't see Slappy like being truly Slappy-esque, being really evil, being a lot of things. So, but that will lead into the other Slappy that we get in Goosebumps Halloween.
Did you guys ever think that Jack Black doing Slappy sounded a lot like Mark Hamill's Joker?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I hear that.
Like, it just kind of came out of it being like, well, Jack Black would be a really good Joker. But yeah, let's move on to Goosebumps 2. So this movie came out 3 years after the original. It didn't have a lot of marketing behind it like the original. In fact, I remember, I think the first look at it was very out of nowhere. It wasn't out of nowhere. There was a few like behind the scenes or like kind of set photos that came out on there was a new director this time around. Ari Sandel was kind of posting some stuff on his social media, but then we got the teaser I think that April, and it was just Slappy being like, oh, there's a new movie coming out, watch it. But I remember you and me, Bjorn. Yeah, well, so this movie went through a lot of production changes. Because originally, it was supposed to be Goosebumps 2 Horrorland. It was supposed to be a Horrorland movie. And we didn't get that. And it pisses me off.
Literally.
Yeah, it pisses a lot of us off.
I once had an idea. I think I had like a plot. I just was feeling like creative when I first heard about this, and I just wrote out a whole plot synopsis, and for the most part I'm kind of like not really happy with it now, but one of the things I had was that Goosebumps Horrorland, it's a continuation from the original. Jack Black's missing, and the Invisible Boy is the one that's unleashed. He's still out there, and he opens the One Day at Horrorland book. He opens the book, and all of Horrorland comes out. The entire park comes out of the book. And then the whole movie is them traversing the park trying to find him, and there's all these other monsters there. Like, you have the opportunity to go a little more in depth with like what you can show in terms of fan service. And I think that plot thing I made had the climax with Cuddles as like a Godzilla size monster, and it's just like ravage. It's like knocking over like rides and stuff like that. It's sort of like reminiscent of what the 2016 Ghostbusters ended with the giant monster, the giant ghost, but with a giant hamster. But we didn't get Goosebumps Horrorland. We got Goosebumps Haunted Halloween. And I don't know, guys. I think I actually really like this movie.
Okay,
So
I'll be honest,
the general
more of a
consensus is
Goosebumps
that
movie.
Goosebumps 2 is an inferior movie to the original. Now, I'm not denying that there are many things that the original does better than the second one. And I don't know. I'm hesitant to say whether I think the second one is a better movie, or at least one that I like more. But the thing about Goosebumps 2, and you said it, Bjorn, is that it feels more like Goosebumps than the first movie does. It is more cheesy. It has a little. The kids are younger. They're actually kids and not high schoolers. That thing I like. Or maybe they're high schoolers. I don't know. They seem more like middle schoolers or like freshmen.
Or at least freshmen. Like,
Yeah. Slappy is more of not only like a main antagonist, but it feels more like Slappy. Like the first half of this movie, honestly, it seems like it was going for a Night of the Living Dummy sort of adaptation. And I don't know, it just kind of feels more in tune with like the 90s TV show. And whether or not that's a detriment, whether you consider that a plus or a negative, that depends on you. But I like Goosebumps too. I like that I like that it's a Halloween movie. Like, it's an actual Halloween movie. I like that even though it kind of retreads a lot on the first movie where you have like a bunch of monsters unleashed on a small town. I like that it's Halloween decorations coming to life as opposed to just coming out of the books. And again, I like that Slappy is more of an antagonist in this movie. He feels like he is more front and center. Like, he's actually the mastermind of it all. That's what I like personally. What do you guys think?
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, just talk about that one scene in that auditorium, and that says it all about Slappy in this one, where he's like, the kid's up on the stepladder, and then he like pulls the screw out, and then he falls to his, like, that was like, how high do you reckon that stepladder was?
That should have paralyzed.
Like, yeah.
Like,
and the way he looks at him, like when he hits the ground, he just kind of stares at him with these wide eyes. Even just when he walks into the auditorium and the door's just shut behind him and he's just standing there, like, not moving, and you're like, whoa, okay, it's a bit eerie. Like,
well,
it felt
the great
more
thing
like
about Slappy in this movie is that he is magic. Like, that's the thing people forget is Slappy is magic. He can do anything he wants. He can turn people into dummies. He can move stuff. I mean,
bring things to life.
He can bring things to life. And that's all in this movie. And I like that they go into that a lot more. And yeah, there's many scenes where he's just walking around being creepy, like that auditorium scene. Yeah. There's another scene where it's at night, and because he reveals himself pretty early, like once these kids find him, the three characters in the movie, there's this kid who's played by Jeremy Ray Taylor, his friend Sonny, and his sister Sarah. They're the three main characters in the movie. Now, Sonny is Jeremy Ray Taylor. Who's Sam? Sam. That's who it is.
Sam.
Okay, so Sonny is Jeremy Ray Taylor's, and then Sam is the best friend. Okay.
Yeah.
So Sonny and Sam, they are trash collectors, which I actually really like. Already, I mean, they have more characters than the three main characters in the first movie. I mean, like, the fact that these kids are like rummaging through like old houses, finding junk, like that's funny to me.
Yeah.
But they find Slappy, and he reveals himself pretty early that he's alive. He's just like, hey, I'm alive, and as long as you do what I tell you to, I'll help you out. And there's this one scene in the movie where it's nighttime, and all the characters are asleep, and it pans over, and Slappy's in bed, and he's like, he looks like he's sleeping, and then all of a sudden he's just like, he just
that was so
just
creepy.
sits up, and he just walks around the house like at night, looking at everything. He's just like, he's looking over the sister's bed. He's just like, and that's like haunting. That was like perfection. When I saw that
was like straight out of like Night of the Living Dummy 2. Like
exactly.
I wonder if
that
was
was
like homage to the episode, because there's a bunch of like POV shots with like the blue lighting and stuff. So I wonder if that was an homage to the Dummy 2 episode.
I don't know, but it just felt like, that's what I mean when I say this feels more like Goosebumps than the first movie does. It just has that feel to it where it's like, it's eerie, it's scary looking, but it's not too scary. That's the thing. Yeah. There's kind of a balancing act when it comes to Goosebumps. Like, yeah, we would like it scary because we're adults, but at the same time, Goosebumps is a kids franchise, so you kind of have to balance like how scary you can get. I feel like this movie in those scenes, that was perfect because it's eerie, but it's not like there's no gore or anything. There's no, like, yeah, you have this kid, you have Slappy like put this kid in traction, but it's like not, there's no blood or anything, but it's scary because you're like, he maybe won't kill you, but he'll fuck you up.
I mean, he could kill you if he really wanted to. He could kill you in this movie.
He could kill you. He could, if he wants to kill you, he will. But even there seems like he turns the mom into a dummy in this movie, and it's like, that's creepy right there. It's even creepier than the episode of I think, what was it, the third one?
It was
like, it's creepier in the movie than it is in the book, and then in the episode. But no, I don't know. It's just every time I hear people all the time are like, Goosebumps 2 is awful, and it's like, I like it. Now, to be fair, it has worse effects. The CGI, if you thought the CGI was bad in Goosebumps 1, it's really bad in Goosebumps 2. It looks like a Disney Channel original movie.
Especially on Slappy. There are some shots of Slappy as CGI, and that is terrible. Like,
that's the thing. So remember, if you guys remember earlier, I said that Goosebumps 1 Slappy is 100% practical. There are no CGI shots. In Goosebumps 2, they try to keep it practical, but number one, it's not as well done as Goosebumps 1. And there are scenes where they make him CG, and it is painfully obvious. Like, there's a scene where he's getting off of like a bed and he's walking, and it's like, that looks so bad. It doesn't look natural at all.
I remember that.
He's like talking to Sonny and Sam, and he's like, you brought me to life and stuff like that. And he stands up, and the camera's like right in front of him, and he's just fully beamed in light, CGI Slappy. He doesn't even look fully rendered.
He's moving around too fluently. It's like he's a dummy. He's puppet. It looks like a cartoon. Yeah, it looks like what we said earlier. It looks like a PS2 graphic. It looks like Goosebumps on the PS2.
That movie came out so fast. Like, do you remember, when did they start filming again? It was like,
it was like 2017, but it also had a way less budget than the first one did.
Yeah.
Came out.
They had to change it from Horrorland because the budget was lower.
I can't even find a low budget as an excuse, though, because the 90s show had a really, really tight budget, and they did amazing things.
Yeah.
What they had to work with.
Yeah.
And was it now, in this day and age, that a movie like that can't, even with a lower budget, can't make something as magical as something back in the 90s.
Right.
And we see, like, newer movies today, like Marvel's gotten a bad rap a lot lately for really bad CG, and to be fair, it's because it is bad CG.
It is.
But at the same time, we got Godzilla -1, which is getting great reviews, and its CGI, like, for the budget it had, looks better than a lot of shits Marvel's been putting out lately. So, I mean, it's really up to, like, who you get to do these projects.
Well, I mean, you look at something like the Chucky, like Chucky, like
and things like that. So,
well, like the Chucky TV series is like one thing that comes to mind. It's like Chucky has always been practical.
Yeah, he's always been an animatronic.
It's always been an animatronic, and a really good animatronic too. So I'm just kind of like, why can't you do the same for Slappy? I know that obviously you obviously can't always have it be just a ventriloquist dummy because you're doing all these dynamic shots. But like, try to make it like an animatronic so it can at least it feels like it's there.
Mhm.
When I see it in CG, I'm like, okay, then that's not there. That's not real. So I don't know. It just it
They
didn't.
can't get a suit
There's one
actor
scene where he's
in.
on the car, so like, okay, you have this scene where he's on the car, which is a really good scene, I will say. Where he smashes on the windshield, and at first it's practical, but then when he starts pounding on the glass, it's CG.
Oh,
And there's
yeah.
like you see like I'll put it up right here. Like, okay, so compare this scene where he falls on there, he's just on there, and then compare it to this scene, this in the same scene, this part in the same scene, and it's like night and day. It looks so obviously terrible.
Yeah.
And it's not just him, it's a lot of the different creatures. I mean you look at
The Abominable Snowman.
the Abominable Snowman and the werewolf, which is like,
Yeah.
why are they in the movie again? They don't do
Yeah.
anything. Why are they in the movie? It's just like, and that, you know what? That's the funniest thing about Goosebumps 2. So, okay, this small convenience store has this Halloween section, and then all of a sudden, because Slappy's walking down it, and he looks over, and there's this Goosebumps section, and it's got the Abominable Snowman and the werewolf, and it's like,
And the Mummy.
no freaking way.
It hasn't been that since the 90s, and
Yeah.
they didn't even have a Werewolf of Fever swamp mask.
Or an
Abominable
Abominable Snowman mask.
Yeah.
Like,
And like why reuse the same monsters? Like, why can't you just give us new monsters? Like this movie would have been a
Well, for the
shoe-in
most
to
part,
have
it
like
does.
the Jack-o'-lanterns from Attack of the Jack-o'-lanterns, both
Yes!
the old man mask, Charlie Beth mask. Like,
Well,
it's
you
a
know,
Halloween
even
one. Like, give us the Halloween Goosebumps monsters.
well, one thing I will say is that even though I think this movie is more like Goosebumps, I like that there actually aren't as many Easter eggs in this movie.
Mhm.
I like that it actually kind of tries to do its own thing this time around because it feels less. The first one is full of Easter eggs. I mean, most of the Goosebumps brand or feel in that movie is mostly down to it, this monster's in it or this one's in it. This movie, I like that it kind of tries to more so tell its own Goosebumps story with its own creatures. And again, I like that it's Halloween decorations. So you have there's like this awesome headless horseman with like fire coming out of his neck.
A balloon
There's
spider, like giant balloon spider.
there's
was really
a giant
cool.
balloon spider. Like that's cool. I like that. Even like some of the ones in the store, like I like the cyborg there. Like that was kind of neat.
Oh, that like blue troll. Like
The
that
blue
looks really
troll
cool.
is just like. "Rrr, rrr." I like
That was-
living jack-o'-lanterns. Like,
Skeletons, stuff like that.
I like the living jack-o'-lanterns. It's not exactly like from the book, but like and the one who's like, well, look what you did to Terry. He's like, hiya, I'm round. That's kind of mean.
Or like the fun fact as well, the two lawn gnomes that you see in the movie, those are actually Hap and Chip from Revenge of the Lawn Gnomes. They're actually supposed to be Hap and Chip, at least according to the wiki. Like they're actually credited as Hap and Chip.
Oh, that's weird. I didn't know that. Even the
Wow.
gummy bears, I'm gonna say one thing really maybe controversial. I think the gummy bears are better than the lawn gnomes. Because I mean, the gummy bears are clearly trying to do the lawn gnomes. They're clearly trying to do the
Yeah.
lawn gnomes bit. It's the same setup. Oh, you have these little guys. No, they're not so bad, but then they are bad, and then they're like. But the reason why I like them more is because I like that they combine to form
Mhm.
bigger gummy bears.
Yeah.
And then like the bigger they get, the more of a threat they are. Like I like that idea.
Like
This
the
movie
scene where
has
they're like
good
pulling
ideas.
like Sunny's getting like sucked into the growing gummy bear as it's like wrapping around him and stuff.
See, that's
Yeah.
where I
And
get
like,
lost
sucked into the
because
book, they like separate again and like become like the little individual ones again.
see, that's where I get lost because to me, if they came to this fat kid's house, they're effed. Every single one of them would be running from me. I would be the monster in that.
That's just the Scooby-Doo 2. With the
Yeah,
Bob.
all you little fuckers.
I mean,
He's like Austin Powers with Fat Bastard.
well, no,
I'm get in my
Is
belly.
there Pepsi
no, you
flavored
guys
one?
you guys seen Scooby-Doo 2, right?
Mhm.
Oh yeah,
Oh yeah.
The cotton candy glob.
yeah, exactly. It's the
Oh,
same
thank
thing. Same thing. I would be Scooby and Shaggy in that moment.
I
No
just
fear. Bring it
that's
on.
a great scene. I love when he's like, you're stuck in here with me. He's like, you're cotton candy, and they're like, yes, and it's just like, and they're like, oh god.
Gotta remember, Ken Jeong is the champ of this movie. He's the Goosebumps fan. That's
Yeah,
one thing
but,
we gotta talk about.
yeah,
Each
but he's
film
not
seems
as
has
funny.
a Goosebumps fan.
Ken Jeong is not funny. I'm
No.
sorry, guys.
Yeah, they
But
sorely misused him in this movie.
It's
For somebody who
we just had to mention him. We had to just mention him.
he could have had better lines, I think.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I just think he wasn't funny. It's just like,
And he's very funny, but it's just like, man, they just way underplayed him in this. And the fact that like, if he's such the super fan and he's seeing all these Halloween, decorations coming to life and stuff, why would you ramble off things like Scarecrow walks at midnight? Or like, dude, like, if you're such a super fan, this story that you're living,
yeah. It's like,
What was his name
dude, that's
again in
not
the
right at all.
What was his name again in the movie? Mr. Chu, was it?
Mr.
Yeah.
Mr. Chu,
Chu.
yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
I like the idea. You do a story about Halloween decorations come to life, and then you have this one neighbor whose house is covered in this in
Mhm.
Halloween decorations. Like, I
How did he
like
do all those
That's-
balloons?
the more I talk about this movie, the more I'm like, I like these ideas. Like, they're just, I don't know. There's just something about what this movie tried to do that I like.
Mhm.
I even like the climax. I like that this movie has the final battle in. It's weird. And I will say, it's weird how much this movie rides freaking Nikola Tesla.
Oh,
Like,
it's so weird.
Nikola
It's so
Tesla
weird.
is all over this movie. And
Oh
I'm
yeah.
like,
That
that's
was,
odd.
do you remember when we first spoke about this dude like years ago when we were first chatting and we mentioned about the whole Nikola Tesla thing? Like, surely that's not really going to happen. That's just some random like plot that someone's put on. Like, we were like, this is just something someone's rambled online.
Yeah, we
It's
were
not
just
true.
like,
There's no way
Nikola
this is real.
Tesla in a Goosebumps movie? It's like, what does that
We
have
thought
to
it was
do with
fake
anything?
news.
But
Fake
I don't know.
news. Like, oh,
regardless,
fake news.
Hey, the movie came out. We're like, wait, it actually happened? What?
What?
Literally at the beginning of the movie when they do the opening credit sequence, it like pans into like the tower with like Nikola Tesla's name, and you're like, I haven't even heard a
Nikola
single
Tesla?
line in the film yet. And
but no, regardless of that, it's weird. But regardless, I actually like the final battle being in this old like electricity tower. I love
Mhm.
the cracking, like it's almost like lightning, and it's like cracking above everything, and there's this rusted equipment everywhere, and there's like, and then like when she gets
Final
up to the
boss
very
battle.
top, and like everything's sparking, and there's like ghosts and witches flying everywhere. I'm like, this is fun. This is a
Mhm.
fun movie. The
And let-
the balloon spider's up there, and he's like trying to get her, and it's like,
Such
Yeah.
a pop.
One of the funniest things, one of the things that always cracked me up in that movie is when Stein first gets back to the town, and he like as he's looking around, he sees the red balloon floating by the sewers. He's like, "Ha! I knew I thought of that first."
Oh, yeah,
I love
let's-
how, like
Let's talk a little
Stephen
bit about
King not-
Jack Black in this movie. So Jack Black, I mean, this was a mystery up to release because they're like, you're doing Goosebumps 2, is Jack Black going to be in it? And he is, but he doesn't really do anything because, so this movie was coming out around the same time as Eli Roth's House with a Clock in Its Walls, which was starring Jack Black. And a lot of people think that because that movie was filming around the same time, that's why he wasn't really in the sequel. But he is in it. Unfortunately, he doesn't do anything. They call him. They say, "Hey, there's some really messed up stuff is going on here, and it's your characters again." And then he shows up like at the beginning of the climax, I think. But he kind of comes in once everything's like Slappy's defeated, the monsters are all gone, and then he comes in and he's like, all right, I'm here to save the day, and then they're like, well, we finished already, it's over. Which, I mean, it's kind of a joke because it's like, oh, you came all this way and yeah, there's not really anything to do. And then he's like, well, okay, then I did my job. It's like the Simpsons is like, you gonna do anything? Did I though?
Whoa. Is R.L. Stein here? Because you just gave me goosebumps.
No, that's literally like that's literally the scene from Marge versus the Monorail with Leonard Nimoy. It's like, my work here is done. It's like, what work? You didn't do anything.
Oh, dude, you've got to put the clip on quickly to show them that Goosebumps was actually referenced in The Simpsons.
Yeah, no, it was. That I remember you posted that clip, and that was like, oh wow, cool.
Yeah. And you know what was funny? People were posting that around the 30th anniversary time, so I don't know if that was like their little 30th anniversary like Easter egg, like Goosebumps is 30 years. Let's just put a funny little quick throwaway line in to be like,
I don't know. Simpsons writers are, I wish they were. Hey, Simpsons writers, I hope you guys love Goosebumps like we do. Call us.
I will say,
them write the series.
I will say in the movie though, I do like the way they ended it. The post-credits scene where Stein gets sucked into the book by Slappy.
I like that too. I like that too.
Yeah, that left up for something possibly really great to go forward, but I think just with the lack of actual like push to this movie, because this was really rushed. They even dropped the Haunted Halloween, subtitle name to this.
Yeah.
Now it's just on the physical media, it's just Goosebumps 2.
Yeah, now it's just Goosebumps 2. So, I mean, after the movie release, and it kind of bombed. I mean, I think they made their money back, but that's really about all they got.
Yeah.
Which is kind of fair, because even when I went opening night to that movie, I mean, I was one of the only people in there. So I knew it probably wasn't going to do all that great. But
did you get your slap bracelet?
I got my slap bracelets.
Yeah.
Your slapping bracelet.
Everybody else got those really cool merch, from popcorn buckets to cups and toppers and everything else.
They did some of the coolest ones for Goosebumps 2. Goosebumps 1 did nothing like that. But Goosebumps 2 had some of the most amazing, those cup topper things. You might have to put an image up, but like they were amazing. The actual sculpt mold of like the werewolf and the snowman and Slappy, they looked great. And I'm like, this should be a full toy. Like, it's just the head with the top. And I'm like, dude, like, why is there not a toy of this? And they looked great. And you had like the popcorn buckets. Even in, I think it was Thailand, they had like actual pumpkin head popcorn bucket.
It was an actual pumpkin popcorn bucket, which was really cool looking. And like Jack Black just was one that I think it was a very last minute, like, hey, I got like 10 minutes on my schedule. You guys want me to do this movie? They're like, oh yeah, whatever, bro. We don't know what we're gonna do with you yet, but we'll have you shoot some stuff.
I mean, once again, I feel like it was kind of the joke is like he just comes in and he's of no use. Like, but at the same time, it's like, I mean, he was the main character, one of the main characters of the first movie. I mean, at the end of the day, he added nothing to the story, so it's just kind of like, I don't know.
That's all it was comedic relief.
Yeah, but I mean, it could have been worse.
When there really wasn't a lot of comedy, like he was the comedy that came in, just for that little bit.
I will say one thing: it did feel odd not having him in this movie. I feel like that's the one thing. It's like the first one. Jack Black really brought a lot of, as you said, he was the comedy relief, but he brought a lot of that comedy to it, and star power. That's probably why this movie didn't do so well, because you don't have a big star like Jack Black. Jack Black was all over the first one, like everywhere they talked about the Goosebumps movie, like Jack Black was all over it. So this one didn't really have, on top of not a lot of advertising, it didn't have a lot of Jack Black, or not really enough to justify like top billing or anything like that, so it must have flown other people's radar. I've actually met people who are like, there was a Goosebumps 2, and it's like, yeah, so
movie theater, I said it was like me and like 4 other people on opening night. It was like, ouch.
Yeah.
Or even like the first teaser trailer we got, like half the teaser trailer for the first one was literally just reused footage from the first.
Reused footage that pissed me off. I was like I remember, because I saw it in the theater, and I was excited, obviously, but I'm like, I recognized all of the shots they used from the first one, and I'm like, this is just stuff in the first movie, and the stuff they had from the second one was like very minimal. I think at the very most you had like, I don't know, probably the scene where they're all walking out of the store, and I'm like, that's cool, but I don't know, I don't know. One more thing to bring up before we move on to our next topic of the night. Slappy playing Rocket League. They talk about, there's a scene where Slappy's literally sitting on the couch with the two boys, and he's playing freaking Rocket League on his PS4. I'm not shitting you. And they even talk about Bitcoin in the movie. It's like one of the characters talks about freaking Bitcoin, and then and then he, like, I think Slappy also brings like some Street Fighter toys to life.
He does.
Yeah, so there's like Street Fighter like reference, and they're just fighting. There's even a scene where I think it was right when he first reveals that he's alive. Sonny has him on a bed or something, and there's like all these different stuffed animals, which are all Sony owned properties. Like there's Spider-Man, and there's like, I think like there was like a Slimer one there too. Yeah, it was like, wow, Sony, you're really not making. You're really
trying to Goosebumps one.
Yeah.
I mean,
I'm glad.
In there.
I mean, I'm glad Slappy's up at the Sony film lineage, but I'm like, dang, Sony, you're just whoring yourself out right now, aren't you?
Also, before we move on to the next topic, I'm also gonna ask you guys, what do you think about the ogre mask in Walter?
I don't mind it. I know you guys. These guys.
Something like that. They should have just went ahead and done the old man mask from Haunted Mask 2.
Yeah, I agree. Or Carly's mask even.
I live in ignorance.
But then you're not going to put in the Haunted Mask or the old man Haunted Mask or anything. Attack of the Jack-o'-lanterns, Headless Halloween Story, nothing.
I live in ignorance and just assume that they were going for something like that.
So, yeah, I think they were hoping that the fans would recognize that it was the Haunted Mask, but
I mean, they certainly didn't call it the Haunted Mask, but I live in ignorance and think that it was supposed to be a reference. So I don't mind it that much.
It might have been a reference, but it's an actual Goosebumps product. Like, you're watching a Goosebumps movie. It's not like you're watching, I don't know, just name another movie, say Simpsons. Just say Simpsons episode, reference a Goosebumps with something like that. You're actually shooting Goosebumps movie, though. You might as well have the Haunted Mask, old man mask in there or something,
It's Goosebumps, not Shrek.
Mask? It's like...
No, it would have been better if it was a Shrek mask. Oh, gotta have...
Ogres love Goosebumps.
Are like onions.
Love Goosebumps. Donkey.
Oh, God.
Alrighty. Well, we're gonna get
quick.
off
What's the final review? I'm gonna say 6 out of 10.
I'll say a 6 out of 10. You know what? I'll say 6.5. I like this movie quite a bit. It's not perfect, but I like it. I enjoy it.
I go 6 out of 10 as well.
I think we're on agreement. I think we're more in agreement on this one than we are on the first one.
We are. Well, look at
nice.
that.
Alrighty.
I'm judging it just the same I was the first movie. The first one felt definitely more theatrical with the way it was shot and the acting and things like that. But like you guys said, this one felt more Goosebumps-ish. I think that's what saves its score of 6 for me, rather than say like a 4 that maybe would have gotten if it didn't have those elements to it. So
that's
it's not a fantastic movie, but it's watchable.
Well, that's the thing. Yeah. I classify this as, if you're looking for a movie that has a lot of or Easter eggs to the Goosebumps, you're just kind of looking for like a little like remember this, remember that. That's more theatrical, as you said. It's more theatrical movie, has a little more star power, and has more references. Then you're gonna like the first one. If you want a movie that feels more like Goosebumps, or maybe is more akin to like the '90s show, but maybe isn't as tightly written, but you're just kind of looking for a fun little Halloween movie, then you'll probably like the second one. I think both are able to be enjoyed. either from a general audience member or even from a Goosebumps fan. I feel like some people are a little too hard on the second one personally. I feel like they kind of dog on it because they either have high feelings about the first one or they kind of just, I don't know. I guess they probably want more references to the books, which I'm like, look, I like references. But at the same time, I'm also looking for a movie. I don't want a Ready Player One or a Space Jam where it's just references upon references for the sake of references. I want a movie with a plot too. So
wait, are we talking about Space Jam 1 or 2?
2.
I never watched the second one because it had LeBron.
The second
James.
one is literally Warner Brothers freaking jizzing all over themselves.
Yeah. It just,
like literally, it is literally. If you told me that movie was a freaking investor showcase, I would have believed you. It was just a big advertisement for Warner Media.
Space Jam 2 is like Warner Brothers throws all these like this is a kids family movie and they throw all these like R-rated stuff like Pennywise, Alex Delarge.
Yeah, there's
like,
there's a freaking child murderer at the fun basketball game. Freaking Alex from Clockwork Orange. There's a fun group of rapists sitting over by the fun basketball game.
I don't know. Maybe I will watch this one now.
Literally, LeBron James is terrible at acting.
Oh, yeah, no.
He's awful. When he screams, it's not like terrified. It's like, oh, like he's literally falling to his death, and he's like, oh.
It's like 9 Living Dummy 3 when they saw Slappy alive for the first time.
That's the worst. That was the worst part of that episode was when they're like,
That's the,
yeah.
That's the John.
No emotion
joke.
In their faces whatsoever. Just
No, that's the JonTron joke from Are You Afraid of the Dark? He's just like, Anyway, all right. Well, speaking of sequels, we're gonna talk about books now in terms of sequel books. I mean, the Goosebumps series has a lot of sequels, and it's expected of any horror franchise to have sequels because you gotta, if something's popular, you gotta milk it for all it's worth. And the Goosebumps series certainly has a lot of sequels, and we're gonna talk about some of the ones that we like and some of the ones that we really do not like. So let's start off with going kind of by franchise. Let's talk about the Living Dummy books. What do you guys think of the Living Dummy sequels? Because I think they're pretty good. Number 2 is the best. I think number 2 is the best Living Dummy sequel.
I think it's the best. For me, it's the best Dummy book altogether. For me.
You know what? I would probably say that too. I like Living Dummy too. I think it's better than the original. I think it's the best out of all of them.
Yeah.
Even the cover is better. I love the cover. I love everything about that book. It's like
it's such a good book.
It's just something about it. You get to see Slappy's full body now.
Yep. Mm-hmm. This is my most read book as a kid. I've read this book like 3 or 4 times as a kid. Like
I remember it so much. It's like one of the only Goosebumps books where, because I'll be honest, I don't really go back and read a lot of Goosebumps books. But I remember, like, Living Dummy 2 is one of those stories where I remember things very vividly about it. I remember the birthday party where he, like, does he, like, chomp on her hand and, won't let go? Just grabs it and just, like, squeezes it and squeezes it and squeezes it. And it's like this kid is screaming, crying. Like, I just remember picturing that. I remember they pull, like, a rotten sandwich out of his head when they first get him. And it's, like... even, like, the red like paint on the walls just writing Amy.
That's like, freaky. That's actually like that's really stalkerish behavior, like when he does that, when he just writes her name all over the wall. And one thing I actually liked about the cover of the reissue book is they kind of do that. I mean, you have to look for it, but it's like all around. They kind of did the red painting around the wall, and I love how he's just chilling out the cupboard there. But I thought that was like sadistic, like psychotic, like I was like, Slappy is messed up. Like Mr. Wood was pretty, intense and just always like, but Slappy's kind of more psychological, messing with you psychologically. And I think
Mr. Wood's more physically violent, Slappy's more psychologically violent.
Yeah, like he tries to mess with you. Like he messes with you mentally. Like, I'm not going insane. I swear to God, I don't need a doctor. This
And
guy
like
Well,
the
was
whole
doing.
great thing
as well,
about
especially in this, because he's basically trying to isolate Amy and like make sure like nobody is like believes her or trusts her, so that she only can rely on him.
hmm
Yeah. I
Well,
love
that's
it.
the
I
great
love
thing
it.
about, and that's probably why Slappy got so many books because, well, here's the thing, because Slappy books don't have a consistent continuity. Slappy can die at the end; he'll be back in the next book. He never has like one consistent owner. I think maybe there was one time. I think Bride of the Living Dummy and Slappy's Nightmare. Jimmy O. James was a character in both those books. That's probably the only
Yes.
time that they had a consistent character besides Slappy across two books. Um, but that's also probably why there's been so many sequels, is because it's just an interchangeable thing. All you got to do is just put Slappy in the story and you're off.
Yep.
But there's been so many too. So we obviously have the original trilogy in the original series, 1, 2, and 3. Then you have Bride of the Living Dummy and Slappy's Nightmare. And then you had Revenge of the Living Dummy in Horrorland and Slappy New Year, and then he was kind of across like the big overarching story.
And then Slappy World, you got the whole.
And then Slappy World is like every other book in that series is about Slappy.
Son
So,
of Slappy in the Most Wanted.
oh yes, Son of Slappy. Yep. I've almost forgot about that one. But no, there's been so many
I love
Slappy
them all.
books. The thing
I
about
love
it
them
though, is
all.
that they're really good, but honestly, at the same time, they're all kind of the same book. I mean,
Yeah.
at least when you get into some of the later ones, like Slappy World, it kind of starts to show it's like it's kind of the same stuff. They kind of try
Yeah.
to change it up. Like I think like you had the dummy meets the mummy, like that was kind of different. And then I think you also had like
Slappy's Nightmare. Slappy's Nightmare was very
Slappy's
different. I
Nightmare.
think
That
too.
is probably
I love that.
my second favorite Slappy book. Is Slappy's Nightmare, purely because it's from it's a third person. It's one of those third person books where there's no real like first person, but you're in basically Slappy's perspective. Like you're hearing his thoughts, you're seeing the events unfold from his perspective, and I like that. I don't think there's any other Goosebumps book where the villain is the main character, like the one that you're following, as opposed to like a kid protagonist, and I like that. Another sort of sequel chain that actually is kind of consistent for the most part is the Monster Blood series.
Yeah.
You have the first 4 in the original series. You have we'll get into how we feel about that one in a second. You have the first 4 in the original series. You have I don't
Monster
think we
Blood
had
for breakfast.
Monster Blood for breakfast. Yeah, it wasn't until Horrorland that we got another one. And then Slappy World.
Slappy World.
Yeah, Slappy World. We got Monster Blood Returns or Strikes Back or something like that. No, Monster Blood is back.
Yeah.
Monster Blood is back.
Yeah.
And yeah, once again, we have another See, I made a video about this a long time ago, and I've spoken about this a few times. A lot of the sequel villains have become the mascots back in the day. Like Slappy's the villain in number 2, becomes a mascot. You got Cuddles in Monster Blood 2. And then, even like Prince Corey in Return of the Mummy. You know what I mean? Like, you have so many of these sequel villains that tend to become more the mascot ones, like that was used on all the marketing and license, like merchandise stuff. So I thought that was really interesting why they did that for a lot of the monsters. But yeah.
Well, I think we can all agree that
Or not Monster Blood, but Mud Monster. That was a mascot pretty much.
Yeah.
I mean, it was all over so much stuff, but it never got a sequel. So
well,
it's
I think
kind
we
of
can all agree.
And even the horror from Horrorland was on a ton of merch.
Yeah.
So,
but I mean, the ones that probably get more exposure are the ones that become more well known because they appear in more books. But I think we can all agree that the Monster Blood books are not good.
No.
The first one
It's
is
like
good.
the order of them.
Like, I'm in the rare camp. I think the first one is one of the worst.
Really? I did not know
I don't
that.
like the first one. The first one is just
Do you like the second
I
one?
haven't read 2 and 3 in years, and I've never read 4, so.
Oh,
yeah, I
you
was
gotta
gonna say,
read 4.
I didn't read 4. I'm with you on that one because I heard it was just complete garbage.
Number 4 is considered to be one of the worst Goosebumps books ever written.
Which is interesting because like Mike, Goosebumps fan, he loves Monster Blood 4.
Well, and that's the interesting thing because so you had Monster Blood 4, and the 2 books that came before that, Werewolf Skin and I Live in Your Basement, are actually considered to be like underrated gems of the original series. But then you have Monster Blood 4, and it's like shit stain, like
skid mark.
Literally.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, so you have Monster Blood 1, which I mean, I personally think I think Monster Blood 1 is a pretty decent book personally. Second one is also pretty okay.
You got cuddles. You got cuddles.
You got cuddles.
I got cuddles.
But to be fair, he kind of comes in at the end, and for the most part, you're just kind of farting around for most of the book. But by the time you get to number 3, it's just so like, what are you doing? Why are you messing with this stuff again? It's like it's this. You know what? Here's the thing, because we mentioned earlier that the Slappy books don't have any consistent protagonist, and that's because anyone with half a brain who would deal with something like this would not go back to it again for any reason. So it's like, Evan, why? Why do you keep messing with this stuff? Once it messed with your life. Twice it messed with your life. 3 times it's going to mess with your life. 4 times, now you're just an idiot.
Well, the thing is, most of the books, it's not even Evan who's messing with it. It's usually Andy who brings the Monster Blood to him.
She's stupid too. She's stupid too.
She's dumb too.
If I was Evan, I'd be like, girl, I need my space from you because you are going to get me killed. If you want to kill yourself, do this stuff, you can go right ahead. I don't want anything to do with it.
In my opinion, like the Monster Blood episodes are better than the books.
I really agree with that.
Monster Blood episodes,
because the thing about Monster Blood in the episodes is that the second one, More Monster Blood, they didn't expect any of that. They didn't expect it to come on the plane with them. So then they're kind of like, oh crap. And honestly, I think that's a better idea. Yeah. Being stuck on a plane with this gelatinous thing that could eat you, like
that is instantly. A scary concept because like, what if the Monster Blood eats the pilot? Then the plane's going down.
Then the plane's gonna go down, and then you're dead either way.
Snakes on a plane, Monster Blood on a plane. God, what else?
I've had it with this motherfucking Monster Blood on this motherfucking plane.
Or the TV version, I've had it with this monkey fighting Monster Blood on this Monday to Friday plane.
Monday to Friday.
That's the thumbnail for this. That's the thumbnail for this podcast. Is going to be like, you're going to do Monster Blood. Have Sam Neill. What's his name? Samuel Jackson. Samuel Jackson with like Monster Blood in the background.
No, well, it's like what? Did they just shoot open a window and then it sucks it out, and then that's it?
Right.
You know what'd be worse? Monster Blood and snakes, or like Monster Blood fight, like snakes firing
the
out.
Snakes eat the Monster Blood. Then the snakes are big.
Well, like their poison out of their fangs is like Monster Blood drooling out of it.
We'll get off the episode because we're gonna go back to the books. But I really love the ending. I really love the ending of More Monster Blood with the giant ant. Just pull back the curtain and there's this giant ant. It's also one of the best screams in the whole show. I think like that was probably one of the best.
Better for Snake now that we're talking about it.
That would have been funny. And they
should
have had Samuel Jackson in the episode.
Yes. They wouldn't have been able to pay him enough. The whole budget of that episode wouldn't have even.
You know what? I don't know. Sam Jackson's done so many movies, and I swear I don't think he has a specific budget that he'll not take. Like, there was that joke, and I can't remember which movie or whatever it was now. I think it was Ted. But when they said, it's like, who's Sam Jackson? It's like, have you ever seen any movie ever? Yeah, he's the black guy.
He's the black guy.
Oh my god,
that's a great line. Well, yeah, because
how they could pitch it to him is they could just say, "Remember when you did that snakes on a plane thing? Well, this time you're going to be fighting Monster Blood on a plane. How does that sound?"
What the fuck is that?
It's like, pitch it. What the fuck is that motherfucking thing?
Monday to Friday. No, if
Same
only we had
idea.
if only we could have this much fun talking about the actual Monster Boy book sequels, because they suck. I'm sorry, they're just Monster Boy 1 and 2 are fine. 3 and 4 are awful.
Hey, why don't we talk about that Say Cheese and Die sequel?
Oh god, that one
All of
sucks.
the old OG62.
That one.
I love the
terrible
cover.
too.
I love the
No,
Tim
okay.
Jacobus art. I love that.
No, I here's the thing. We're talking about main characters like you're so stupid because you keep going back to this. Evan
Greg,
is like a
thanks.
freaking genius compared to freaking Greg. Because, dude, Greg, you literally, number one, almost got, what was it, his brother or his father killed in a car accident.
His brother?
I think it's
His
his
dad.
brother.
Yeah.
Was it his dad? Yes, his dad. So he got his dad
Dad.
almost killed somehow. His friend disappeared, like it just vanished. Whole investigation. Police called.
It killed the
And-
dude. It literally killed the dude.
Kill the man. You kill the man with that camera, and you're gonna go mess with it again because you want an A on your report. You are one dumb motherfucker. You, my friend, are the stupidest person I've ever met.
Okay, but would
Doesn't
it have
Sherry
been better
even say, like, dude, don't you remember what that thing did? Like, are you serious right now?
And then once again, Sherry gets like the worst of it, where she just starts wasting away into nothing.
Well, that's the thing. It's such a weird concept for a sequel book
It
because,
is.
okay, so the first book is a classic. I mean, it's a camera. You take a picture, it tells the future, and it's always bad.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very realistic, too. I mean,
Yeah.
like, it's...
And dark. Like, that book is
It's
pretty
dark, yeah.
See, I don't know, dude, because if it was me and that camera was making me lose weight, I'm onto something here. I like
But the only problem is you wouldn't
if I can still
stop
go to
losing
a
weight.
Chinese all-you-can-eat buffet and come out and I lost 10 pounds, I'm onto something. Okay?
Yeah.
But again, the only problem is you would continue to get thinner and thinner until you were nothing.
That's the truth.
Well, that's the thing. It's like, it's such a weird concept for a sequel because, yeah, in the sequel, they end up taking a picture of each other. Greg and Sherry take a picture of each other. And it's like, but in this time, it's like something that's going to mesh. Their bodies are going to change against their will. And it's like, that's not, is that telling the future? Or is this like, I don't understand, like,
Right? Or like, how does like the camera photo coming out to a negative mean you lose weight? Like, how does that have any connection? Like,
well, yeah, it's just, it's such a weird concept for a sequel book. It shouldn't have had a sequel. You don't need a sequel.
Weight taking off. I don't know.
yeah,
Really makes a connection. It's like, oh, you lost 10 pounds. That's negative, to
I think
your
you're a
boundaries.
fan of Say Cheese and Die, Isaiah. I think you're a fan of Say Cheese and Die.
Yeah, it's a great book.
yeah.
It's a great cover.
That's a great shirt.
Yeah, it is a great shirt. That's why I wore it. No, Saint Cheese and Die Again is a terrible book.
I will say though, the one thing I will say that did stick with me from that book is like when he gets the photo taken of him and he has like the reptile skin and his skin starts like peeling off and like with the reptile skin underneath. Like that part stuck with me as a kid.
Yeah,
But,
I mean, I don't know. It's just, I feel like it should have been more closer in tune to the original. If you're going to do a sequel, don't go far out of left field. Try to build on what you did in the first one. Because it just seemed like strange. It was like, I don't know. But in terms of stories that actually kind of improved on the original, I think Return of the Mummy is one of the actually better than the first Curse of the Mummy's Tomb.
Yeah, I like that. I like Return of the Mummy too.
Yeah, Return of the Mummy is. I just think I think it was a better setup. I think the characters were better. I think I thought it was better than Curse of the Mummy's Tomb. I don't hate Curse of the Mummy's Tomb. I just think Return of the Mummy's better.
I haven't actually read Return of the Mummy. I recently read Curse of the Mummy's Tomb, and it was okay. The first half is just insanely boring to get through.
Yeah, it kind of is.
Yeah. Like
Return of the Mummy
kind of.
I think Return of the Mummy goes like
good.
more. I feel like Return of the Mummy kind of cuts to the chase a little faster, because I mean you know the characters up to this point, so you're just kind of like, okay, now we're just gonna get into it.
Yeah, it's kind of ironic that Return of the Mummy is one of the best Mummy books, but it's the worst Mummy episode.
Yeah. Oh my god, I agree with that. But I mean, we get Prince Koru, and I mean that guy was on everything.
Yeah.
Always riding that skateboard though. Like, what was with the skateboard? I don't. It was such a '90s thing, right?
Yeah.
rad. He was freaking
Or even
rad,
like the mud monster playing the guitar, like.
Well, the horror
Slappy's always got like a teddy bear behind him. Why Slappy always got a teddy bear behind him? I get because he's like a doll and like a teddy. Like I guess that's kind of what they're going for. But like a teddy bear, like I guess well, on the cover of 9/11 2, you had the teddy bear and you had the rabbit. So I guess they were kind of like going for that vibe. But
some of that art,
sometimes put a random bed frame behind him.
I'm curious to know who did all those
art from like the Horrorland era Goosebumps is really interesting. Like the style that's like on the stamp, those postage stamps that you have. Like that specific art style. There is some really unique like
right here, man.
There was some
not
weird...
Brandon Dorman. Like that art's not Brandon Dorman. That's someone else.
It's someone
but,
else.
Like,
I'm
no
curious
mass mutant anywhere to be seen. No.
Same thing with like the old Goosebumps. Like you were talking about like the mummy on the skateboard and Mud Monster on the guitar. I don't know who did that art either. I'm curious to know. Nick, I know you probably want to talk about this book. Let's talk about Haunted Mask 2. Because while I don't think it's better than the original, I think it's a pretty decent sequel still.
Yeah, it's a solid sequel. I just prefer, this is one of the times too where I feel the episode was better than the book as far as the story is concerned.
Yeah, I agree too.
The changes they made, I mean, because in the Haunted Mask 2 book, one, the original Haunted Mask was like mentioned, but it was never really in the book. It was all focused on Steve and his revenge on the kids who, you know, were annoying him and things like that. So what I think the episode did better was actually incorporating still, again, building on a story that was already there of the OG story, keeping that intact while still, you know, creating this whole new story with Steve and the old man mask. And actually the fact that the old man mask was like killing him the entire time in itself also, I think, a really creepy idea, and one that was pretty well explored in the book that I feel at the episode could have touched on a little better. That's one of the few things differential wise that they kind of have that I wish they would have put in, but I kind of understand for time constraints and, you know, it's a kids show. They don't want to really go that far into depth with, you know, this old man, you know, well, Steve now is an old man who's dying and he's a race against the clock. So instead of the race against the clock, it's trying to get done before, you know, Halloween's over for the Haunted Mask to take over Carly Beth. I get all that. But sequel goes as books. I mean, I thought it was pretty solid.
Yeah, I wish Steve wasn't such a big asshole. That's another thing I think the episode did better is they made Steve a little more sympathetic.
Make him such an asshole in the show like he was in the book. Because in the book he was still a dick. So
yeah, he was picking on like what?
Like he has a much more relatable kind of motivation behind it, like just wanting to have one more Halloween before he's too old to do it. And I feel like that's something we all can relate to as kids, and just and also the whole concept of, you know, getting old before your time as well. Like
better than Old Story did it.
Well,
no, I thought Haunted Mask 2 was a pretty good book. Like I said, I still think the original is better. But I think the second one did a pretty good job, all things considered. And technically, Scream of the Haunted Mask is technically Haunted Mask 3. I mean, if we consider it that, it has Carly Beth and Sabrina.
Doesn't Scream of the Haunted Mask like retcon Haunted Mask 2?
I think so. I don't know. I mean, I feel like you could technically still do a Haunted Mask 3 and not really. It's one of those stories where, since it's a different main character, you probably could kind of maybe not retcon it, but not really mention it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, Scream of the Haunted Mask is technically Haunted Mask 3. I haven't read that one in a long time. But I mean, Sabrina and Carly Beth are the main characters, so you could technically count it as that. Same thing with let's talk about Deep Trouble 2.
New York Times bestseller, Deep Trouble 2. Is that what we're talking about?
that one got a few awards. I don't feel it's earned because I don't think it's a good book. It's a Deep Trouble.
Kids in the 90s did.
Yeah, I get something. They must have did something right because kids really liked it back then. See, Deep Trouble 1 I think is a good book, and I think Deep Trouble 2 has some good ideas because I like the idea of like these sort of fish creature people out like from this like mutated plankton. I like that. It kind of took more of a scientific route because the first
Yeah.
one was about like mermaids and sea monsters and stuff like that. And the second one kind of took more of like a laboratory mad scientist route.
Like an Island of Dr. Monroe route.
Yeah, and it's an interesting idea. I just don't think it lands the execution that well. And then you have Creep from the Deep, which is technically like Scream of the Haunted Mask, is sort of like a Deep Trouble 3. And that one kind of deals with pirates, and I like that.
Ooh,
Now,
that's right.
honestly-
He was yeah.
I'm
Sorry.
Yeah.
One like he was at, I can't remember the pirate's name, but he was in the movie. I know that the pirate.
Well,
Yeah,
Crombie.
there is a pirate in the movie, and it is from that
Crombie?
book.
Yeah.
I think it's Crombie, isn't it?
No,
Cron-
Cronby's a troll. I think it was like Captain
Oh, that's right.
One-Eyed Ben or something
Captain
like
Dan.
that.
Like that.
Captain Dan.
Like
Captain Dan, isn't it?
Captain
No,
Ben, I think.
something.
Yeah.
I don't remember, but
Yeah, I haven't
something.
read
I
that
don't know.
book in
But I like
like
that
10 years.
even though I don't think those sequels are necessarily as good, I like that it at least tried to do something different in each one. Like that's something I certainly can't say of freaking Monster Blood. But I like that the Deep Trouble sequels tried to do more of different kind of nautical things. Yeah, that's supposed to be it.
He's randomly on this fabric they brought out. So there you go.
Yeah.
But for me, honestly, I prefer Deep Trouble 2 over Deep Trouble 1. I can't stand Deep Trouble 1 as a book, honestly. Like I've never liked it.
Well,
I
there
like-
you go. See,
I don't hate Deep Trouble 2. I just don't gel with it as much. Let me put it that way. I don't hate it. I just don't love it.
I
Let's put
think
it
I
that
just like the idea of Deep Trouble 2 more, and especially like the ending. I like the way they kind of leave Deep Trouble 2's ending as like an ambiguous ending with Sheena. Like, when they
Yeah,
don't know
that's
if she
true.
drank the plankton or if she drank the tea. I don't know.
Yeah, it's
I prefer Deep Trouble 2 over 1 personally, but you know, that's me. But I think it's kind of weird. I like the cover of 1 more than I do the cover of 2.
yeah,
For sure.
agree with
that's
that.
a funny thing about Goosebump books, isn't it? Like some will have a better cover, some will have a better story sequel, or a better yeah, it's interesting. Like I know a lot of people that love Return to Horrorland, like the cover, like way more than the original book. Like they love because it's obviously the Series 2000 books is just way more edgier looking, on the cover. They look more like teen books, right?
Well, let's talk
I've had
about
some
that book a little
people
more.
love the cover of that book.
Let's
Oh,
talk
yeah.
about, let's talk about that book a little more. We're gonna talk about Return to Horrorland. Well, technically, One Day at Horrorland has that, and then it has a whole series as a sequel. But no, I mean, One Day at Horrorland is obviously a classic, and then you have Return to Horrorland. That one makes sense because they're trying to expose it. They're trying to like show the world that there's a freaking theme park full of monsters. I like that angle. Did you guys notice that they even try to explain that Monster Blood takes place in the same universe as Horrorland does? Because apparently Evan went to the
Return
same.
to Horrorland, so I don't know, but
So if you guys have read Return to Horrorland, there's a scene in the book where because Lizzie and Luke are trying to expose, if I remember correctly, they're trying to expose Horrorland on this like reality show. And I think when they go to it, they find there's a kid who tried to talk about like this gelatinous goop that almost ate a whole town.
Oh my god, I do remember this.
So they're like, wow, Monster Blood is in the same universe. I mean, personally, I
back up.
love the idea of all these stories taking place in one universe.
I was gonna say, like, I thought I had read somewhere, and I don't know if it was Stein who said it or not, but all these are supposed to take place in the same universe. Like, basically,
Yeah.
it's his MonsterVerse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I like that. I
read that somewhere though.
I like that. That's honestly one thing I liked about the Horrorland. That's one thing I liked about the Horrorland series, and I liked honestly about the new reboot. I like the idea of all these things existing in one universe. So I like that they did that. And then obviously you have
trouble with adapting Horrorland into a live action. They seem to have a lot of trouble adapting anything to do with Horrorland for some reason. Yeah. I mean,
But
Disney, all the money they had, they for whatever reason couldn't do it. So it's
well,
like
and
if they
Horrorland
can't
got
do
a lot
it,
of love outside of books too. I mean, you got the video game, you got two video games, the PC
Yeah.
game and then the one that came out on consoles. You got the online game, you got you got the Horrorland series, which I mean it kind of acts as a sequel, but also not. That's the weird thing about Horrorland. I know we've been up until this point we've been saying it's kind of sequels to the original books, but at the same time it's kind of like, is it though?
Yeah.
I don't know.
It feels like that a bit. But like, yeah, we got to talk about those video games in a future episode, 100%.
Yeah. I mean, we kind of did in a past episode, but we got to go more in depth about Horrorland. We'll probably do a whole episode about Horrorland and just talking
Just
about
that
like
one game.
yeah, just talk about Horrorland and all about that stuff.
Oh,
But
we got to try and get Jeff Goldblum on if we do that.
bring Jeff Gold. How did you like playing a vampire in the Goosebumps game? You'd probably be like, what the hell are you talking about?
You know, he
I
was
know
asked
Jeff
about.
Goldblum, he'd own up to it. Knowing Jeff Goldblum, he would own it.
He would. He'd be like, yeah, it was the best.
Let's talk about another weird sequel in the series 2000s. They did Return to Ghost Camp, which I know you said, Bjorn, that it's probably one of your favorite covers is Return to Ghost Camp.
Oh, it's got a great cover. Like, it's scary as shit. As a
Does
kid,
it really?
I hated that. Didn't like look at it.
Now, I
didn't
haven't
like-
read Return to Ghost Camp, but is it actually the same characters from the first one, or is it different characters?
For Return to Ghost Camp.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It
Same.
is the same? Okay. I heard somewhere that it was different. It was one of those situations where it's different characters. But no, I mean, I
wait
haven't
a
read
second.
that one, but I just
Last
thought that
time
was
I
kind
read
of
it was. Someone might have to Google that. I haven't read it in like 10 years. 12 years.
Yeah, I haven't read it in ever, so
Same.
I don't know.
You never read that book?
I haven't.
I've never read
I probably
anything in the
should.
series 2000.
I just thought it was a weird choice for a sequel. It's like Horrorland, Monster Blood, Night and Dummy, Ghost Camp. Okay.
I mean,
Yeah,
Ghost Camp's
like,
a good
just
book from what I've
decided to do
heard.
Oh, it is a good book. I don't know. It's just not one I would really pick to have a sequel to.
It's a very creepy book. Like, it's one of it's a ghost story, obviously, and it's one of those like real eerie.
And it's a
dark,
camp
twisted,
story.
creepy ones.
Stein loves camp
And-
stories.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, yeah, he loves it.
More
I
than
mean,
the
there's like
series.
he likes goo for some reason because even in Ghost Camp,
There's
when
goo.
they wake up, they would see the random goo puddles outside the beds. And it's like, okay, like
He
what's
likes
the
icky,
goo and
sticky stuff.
I don't know.
slime in the 90s, though. I mean, because then Nickelodeon
Yeah,
had stuff, and it was just slime everywhere, dude. I mean, it was just how it was.
We even got a
100%.
sequel to Creature Teacher from Series 2000. You got Series 2000 Creature
Final
Teacher,
Exam.
and then in Most Wanted we got Creature Teacher: The Final Exam, which
Yep.
I remember when that book was announced, and I was like, wow, that's cool. I'm excited to read that. I wasn't.
Yeah,
I was more
that's one
excited than I
that-
was for Dr.
That's
Maniac. We'll see you
Series
now.
2000 books I actually enjoyed. I haven't read all the Series 2000 books yet, but I enjoyed Creature Teacher.
Yeah, Creature Teacher was a great book.
And
From what I've read of Series 2000,
but R.L. Stein didn't apparently enjoy writing that one, as
Yeah.
we found out at that panel.
yeah,
But still, I mean, Series 2000 had some great sequels, and that's what we talked about earlier with Slappy's Nightmare and Return to Ghost Camp now, and I mean,
Return to Horrorland. Return to Horrorland was a pretty good book.
so it was a good time to put different series in there, and that's why I kind of wish it could have continued.
Well, and even Give Yourself Goosebumps got a few sequels. Technically, there was a sequel to the very first Give Yourself Goosebumps, Return to the Carnival of Horrors, which I don't know if it really had any like connection, but it was just like it's weird to have a sequel to a Give Yourself Goosebumps.
Right.
But then you also had
Terror Tower. in
yeah,
GYG.
there was sequels to
Terror
other
Tower.
books in Give Yourself Goosebumps, like Return to Terror Tower. They had the same characters back, but it's one of those obviously Give Yourself Goosebumps is you are the main character. You're making the decisions. The other characters are just right there next to it. Yeah, that's a great cover.
Yeah,
It
Yeah.
wasn't.
It's the
It's
smoke
not
from
the
the
same
fire.
protagonist, by the way. I honestly could not remember, but for some reason I was thinking it was, but then I've just checked now. It's definitely not.
I thought so. I heard somewhere that it was different protagonists this time.
I was
So-
thinking a different book, honestly, and then I was like, I need to double check that just for this right here, for my conscience, man. Like, but yeah, no, the cover art, I think Tim just knocked it out of the ballpark with creepy.
Oh yeah, absolutely. As most of
Some kind
the
of
Series
animal
2000s.
skull. It doesn't even look like human.
I don't think
I
there's
know,
a
it's like-
single Series
It
2000
reminds
book
me kind
that
of the
missed ball.
werewolf from Harry Potter, Lupin, when he's
Yeah,
kind of
it
like
does
mid
kind of look like that.
transforming.
Yeah.
It's just freaky, man. Like, this book scared me as a kid just looking at it. And I was like, ugh.
I
remember
don't
it
think
was at
there's
my
a
book fair
single
in, like,
Series
2000.
2000 cover that Tim did not like miss on. I think they were all just like phenomenal.
He is God. Tim Jacobus is God.
Yeah. we even got a sequel to Invasion of the Body Squeezers and Give Yourself Goosebumps with Return of the Body Squeezers or
Yeah,
something like that.
We did.
And he had the blue ones in there. That was a great cover, the blue Body Squeezers.
Yeah, that was one I actually really because those were at least the two original Part 1 and Part 2 were early Series 2000 books. I think they were 2 and 3 if I remember right. So they were very early. But to get those and then have combining covers, because I think that's the first time we ever had combining covers. You know, if you guys go back and watch our episode Talk with Tim, funny story about that. But we also, you know, got the chance to see those covers together growing up. But man, like, I wish they could have done more with books like that. If it was a part 1, or even a sequel. Like, if you're going to use the same characters, or even if you weren't, like, it'd be really cool just to have like a connecting book cover to have one piece of art.
Yeah,
I think
absolutely.
so.
And I think there's one more sequel we can talk about. It's really not one that I have a lot of thoughts on. Is we had Dr. Maniac versus Robin Schwartz, and then Dr. Maniac will see you now. It's like I don't care for either book. I don't care for Dr. Maniac. And I didn't understand why they did another sequel, why they did another one. I don't know. The whole video game angle in some Goosebumps books just doesn't, I don't know.
Doesn't gel.
Doesn't gel. I feel like Attack of the Mutant did a evil supervillain better than Dr. Maniac did.
Yeah.
I knew you were going to do that.
Mass Mutant, man.
But,
oh, God.
Well, I think before we wrap up tonight, I think we should talk about the Goosebumps books that we wish had a sequel, because I know I have my own pick. I personally would have liked to have seen The Werewolf of Fever Swamp get a sequel, because I personally would have loved it, because the ending of that book is Grady is now a werewolf. I would have liked it if they actually had a sequel book where they explained more about Fever Swamp, and maybe the werewolf curse was actually a fever, and there was more than one person. Like, there was more than one werewolf, and maybe there's like a clan of some kind.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like there was actually a comic, a Goosebumps comic that's connected to Fever Swamp, and I think they did something like that. So I mean, I guess kind of got my wish, but
I think it was called Secrets
of the Swamp. It was a comic series by IDW Comics, and it was pretty decent. But if I really had to pick like a sequel in book form, I would say Werewolf of Fever Swamp.
Yeah, definitely.
So for me, I have two. My first pick, Attack of the Jack-o'-lanterns. I'd like this to be a cool sequel. Like, my idea for it maybe is like have it where Drew and Walker are now adults and they have kids of their own, and these jack-o'-lantern creatures come, the aliens of Shane and Shauna come back to like, and they have to try and protect their kids from being taken or eaten or something like that. Like, that'd be kind of cool. And my other one was Cuckoo Clock of Doom. I feel like this would be kind of to do like a kind of a sequel, maybe with Michael, or maybe even a new protagonist messing with the Cuckoo Clock. I don't know, but you know, you could do something along do like a Night of the Living Dummy thing. Just have the Cuckoo Clock be with a new family and have this new character have on his own little Cuckoo Clock adventure.
You know what's
Yeah.
funny? I like the
Oh,
I kind of liked what they did in the reboot at first with the Cuckoo Clock of Doom, with sort of the Groundhog Day effect, where like
Yeah,
you couldn't leave the house. Like if you
unless you
tried
did
to
some.
leave, you would like restart the whole thing.
Yeah, and you
So
had
you're
to do like
basically
a certain
trapped.
thing in order to break the loop.
Yeah.
yeah.
But I like that idea. I just wish they didn't do the whole stupid clone thing.
Yeah, and I think that
Yeah.
the clone thing would have worked, but not with Cuckoo Clock. Clone thing would have worked better with Let's Get Invisible.
Let's
Like,
get invisible. Yeah.
Or like even like I'm Your Evil Twin kind of a deal.
Yeah.
like, cause like my
Let's Get
idea for
Invisible
like,
would be a really good sequel too.
But
yeah, because I did a
Yeah.
collab with Bjorn about like our ideas for how we pitch a Goosebumps reboot, and like my idea for Let's Get Invisible was like do the same thing like Cuckoo Clock of Doom, but like maybe have the main character get trapped in the mirror by his reflection, and then to like add on something to because the show kind of adds on new abilities. Give the reflections the ability to go up to other mirrors and pull their own reflection out with it, and like just make this giant army of these things. Like,
That would be so creepy.
mirror
Awesome.
clones.
Yeah.
and then like at the end, like all the reflections can get killed, but then all the other ones that look because then there's the reflections of the reflections that look like the normal person. So that'd be
Then
even
you
harder
get
to
the- then you get
differentiate.
the
Then.
clone issue of like which one's the real one, and then they all, get pissed off saying I'm the real one, and then they fight each other. So
Yeah.
if you've watched Invincible, that's like one of my favorite shows right now. So that was a theme that was in there. Is this supervillain kept cloning himself, but then the new one that would come around says it was the original. But now because he's cloned himself so many times, they don't really know which one is the original.
That's the meme in what was that? That was the scene in Minions where this guy clones himself and then they kill the original and they're like, "Oh God, we killed the original," and then they all die.
Oh man, well, sequels, right?
Yeah.
I mean, for my first sequel, I'd love to see Chicken Chicken. That would be, I think, a really good book to do a sequel to.
That needs like 15 sequels.
I mean, like they could do it honestly, like with the way like when Vanessa was just pig. The sequel could just be pig. Have the same characters transforming into pigs this time. Same story, everything. It's just they're turning into pigs instead of chickens.
It should just
Oh,
the cover art should just be like literally the same as Chicken Chicken, just with a pig. So
Mhm.
just put the same face on there. Cow.
Oh,
Dog,
God.
dog.
In the Goosebumps Old McDonald series, we'll have a new picture.
Yeah, that should be the next Goosebumps series. Is Goosebumps Old McDonald, and it's just a bunch of freaking Chicken sequels.
Oh God, no. Well, my main one obviously is the Horror Cam Jelly Jam.
Mhm.
No explanation needed other than it's my favorite Goosebump book. Okay, it has been my entire life. I love the story. I love everything about it. King Jelly Jam, I think, is just great. A big, giant purple monster that smells so bad that he literally dies from his own odor when they stop cleaning him. I'm like, come on. That thing is just awesome. I love it.
Yeah.
Horror Camp Jelly Jam is like the number one pick. I want a sequel. And Stein, come on. In the House of Shivers series, just give us another Horror Camp Jelly Jam sequel.
Make him smell himself again.
Yeah. It's not even so much like the villain in that book. It's just the way he wrote it. It's just creepy. It's another book that's very eerie. And that's what I love. It gives that, when you read it, you're like, ugh, these counselors are creepy as fuck. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
They're always like watching you, like when he pulls her out of the water and he's like, I know that you slowed down on purpose. Like, I'm like, oh, fuck. Things like that just get to me. I don't know what it is. But yeah, no, Horror Camp Jelly Jam that's number one that I would love to see a sequel for. In terms of another book that I'd want to see a sequel for, I mean, oh God, I'm probably with Attack of the Jack-O-Lanterns as well. I would love to see a sequel to that. Yeah, I think there's so much more of a story to be told there, like just the way it ends, even like I just think that you could just continue that. There's so much more you can do with it. And the idea of that is just creepy, man. It's just, yeah, I think Attack of the Jack-O-Lanterns would probably be my second choice for a sequel. I'd love that, Who doesn't love a good Halloween story?
Yeah. Nick, what do
I'm
you
with
got?
Micah on that one.
Oh, well, all mine were taken. So,
Oh,
where
you got a backup pick?
Attack of the Jack-O-Lanterns, because I'm a big Halloween enthusiast. That is legit my lifestyle. So,
Honorable mention.
See, that's tough now because I already had mine lined up and everybody took them.
Ah.
Oh man.
On Nick.
You know, even though like it, I don't know what they would do with it, but I really love the story for Welcome to Camp Nightmare. I would like a sequel to that somehow.
Yeah. I don't know.
But
I think
I mean,
Yeah.
and I really, honestly, I really do like, Scarecrow Walks at Midnight, and I really like,
That'd be a good one.
yeah, I really like Scarecrow Walks at Midnight, and
You Can't Scare Me.
You Can't Scare Me is a good one too.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, another honorable mention I have. Welcome to Dead House.
Oh, yeah, we nearly got that. We nearly
What
got
about
that.
Stay Out of the Basement?
Stay Out of the Basement would be another good sequel.
I mean,
one.
that's another good one that deals with clones. Like, honestly, one thing I wish they did in the episode, because you remember how Margaret, she says she cuts her hand on like a thorn or something like that.
Yeah.
I would have liked it if at the end, instead of the dad being the flowers, it's actually Margaret's voice coming out of there.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Like all of a sudden, there's like these Margaret clones. I would have liked that for a sequel to Stay Out of the Basement.
Yeah, especially since the dad said that's how he, that whole mixture happened. His blood got mixed in with, and then it created this monster. So hers doing that too would have been really neat.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or the twist being like Margaret was replaced, near the end, but nobody knew it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
like.
I'd love them to return to Dark Falls. That would be great.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Cool. Like the fact that we nearly got it with Goosebumps Gold, Happy Holidays from Dead House. Like we nearly got a sequel. Like why has Stein never thought to revisit that? Don't know.
Same thing with Haunted Mask
It
Lives.
last 2 years. And apparently, from what I've heard from Stein, Scream with a Haunted Mask was kind of similar to the plot for Haunted Mask Lives, apparently.
Oh, okay. So it is true.
I wouldn't be surprised if it was. But you never know.
Yeah. Slappy New Year. Got that.
Anyway, guys, that's all the time we have for today's episode of the Goosebumps Crew Podcast. I want to thank all of my Goosebumps cohorts for being with us again. Bjorn Palek, Goosebumps Aussie fan, Nick Shawin, Micah, Ultimate Goosebumps Man. Go ahead and give them a follow on their YouTubes and their social medias. They really do deserve it. And of course, give us a sub over here at the Goosebumps channel for more Goosebumps videos and episodes of the Goosebumps Crew Podcast. We are also now available on Spotify, so go ahead and check us out at Spotify. I'll include a link in the description below. Go give us a listen over there. Give us a follow. New episodes will be uploaded succinctly with YouTube uploads. And we will be back for another episode this holiday season. I mean, Christmas is coming up in just a few days. We'll have a special Christmas episode coming out. And then next week, we're going to be talking some Goosebumps physical media and how we would pitch a Goosebumps reboot. So if you guys want to check that out, go ahead and give us a sub over here at the Goosebumps channel. But for now, this is the Goosebumps channel, wishing you all to have a very scary day.